Hello, everyone. Welcome to my 12th webcam and live stream of Mikey Sue's Four's channel. Welcome, everyone. We'll see. We're going to try something here real quick before we get the stream started. I wanted to start a few minutes early to make sure I could get to this point so I could start it again. So let's see if this works. Try this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live stream webcam. Mikey Sue's Fours here. Michael Fournier. Welcome, everyone. Dadman Walking 55. This sounds like an awesome stream. We'll try to drop by for a bit. Thanks for your support. You're absolutely welcome, Dadman. I liked some of your videos as well, and I loved subscribing to your channel. So, welcome, everyone. As I said again, I don't like to repeat myself sometimes, but it happens. Anyway, thank you for coming. This is the live stream. Today we're going to talk about everything Indiana Jones. Yes, it's a lot of fun. For those of you who may not be aware of the movies, it is a period that covers from 1981, which is Raiders of the Lost Ark, all the way to Indiana Jones 5 or Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which is going to come out on June 19th of this year, 2023. So, from 1981 to 2023, we will have 5 movies. There is also, when you get the first 3 movies, uh, Raiders, Temple of Doom, and The Last Crusade. When you get those first 3 movies, you also, and they should be in stores now, there's a bonus feature, which has, it's a bonus DVD, and it has features. It looks like this. I showed it last, but this is what it looks like right there. So, so if you get the first 3 movies, make sure you get the bonus features included, so it can tell you all about behind the scenes, the cool special effects and practical effects that they used. Uh, which, by the way, the first 3 did use a lot of those visual effects and so forth. I believe it was only Kingdom of the Crystal Skull that used some brand new CGI. That was the only one, as far as I know. Dial of Destiny is going to do the same thing, but should be better. Hopefully, it'll be a lot better than 4 was. But I did enjoy 4. I enjoyed all of them. That's why I own them. We own them. Sorry, my beautiful wife's behind me. We also have my cats, Moon Pie and Deja Vu. They love to listen in on these streams too, and they're very well behaved actually when I do them. So I'm very proud of those girls. Thank you, girls, for excuse me, relaxing. I was just trying to eat a little dinner before I got started tonight. Anyway, I don't see anybody in the chat yet, but that's okay. Come in when you can. Say hello when you can. I know This is probably not the most opportune time to start streaming when there are a few other streams out there. I know Resolute Germ, and Gorilla's Random Thoughts do their own show, I believe, around this time. So, uh, what we're trying to shoot for tonight, I hope we get at least 2 hours in, and maybe a little bit more if there are a few more people in the chat. If there's even like two or three in the chat, I'll still chat with you guys until you're ready to go do your stuff. And then if it's too late, in the evening, I don't want to delay anyone that, like, if they want to go to bed or if they got to get some dinner or some other stuff going on. So, but that being said, all right. So what's going to happen in the stream is it'll be very basic, very simple. I will introduce each film. As I said, for some people that may not have seen these films at all, they'll get a brief synopsis of how each film came out. Uh, the main characters, basically the actors and actresses that were in each film, where the story starts uh, chronologically, and then I'll give my reviews basically with a grade anywhere from A to F. Um, I don't have a poll set up, but I figured I'd rather just have you guys tell me in the chat, commenting what your grade would be on each film if you want to give me that way. It's probably easier. Also, we will briefly, if Professor Brady Spence comes in tonight, hopefully he does, and John DeMarco as well. A lot of you, I hope you come in tonight. But anyway, uh, when we get to Young Indiana Jones, all I'm going to do is give you really just a full on overall grade of it. Uh, I will comment on the actor Sean Patrick Flannery, who played the young Indiana Jones. It covered a period basically from when we were first introduced to Indy in The Last Crusade, uh, where it was Utah 1912. He was in a Boy Scout troop. They were out in the Monument Valley area of Utah, or Arizona. Well, they all share the same area, but he was out there. But we'll get to that plot, real brief synopsis of it later. But basically, it went from that to about, I think it was Chicago, where uh, Indy was getting older, and he was talking about an experience he had in Chicago by meeting Al Capone, and some other people. That was in the Young Indiana Jones Adventures. So, but we will just, like I said, we'll give a brief review of that, and then we'll just go ahead and give you a quick grade on the entire series. So that should be fun to look forward to. And then the last thing we're going to discuss today, then, about Indiana Jones is the fifth one, which is coming out, like I said, June 19th this year, The Dial of Destiny. I only know of the two that are involved in it right now, Harrison Ford, and then the villain is played by Mads Mikkelsen, who actually did the first James Bond film that featured Daniel Craig, which was Casino Royale. He played Le Chiffre. So I know of those two that are in it. I don't remember many of the other people in there. But when we start talking about it, if you guys know, if you've seen the trailers like I have, but if you can recognize, that was just a fly going by, sorry. But if you guys recognize anything from the trailers, or if you know of anybody that's doing it, let me know. Okay. All right, well, we're going to get started because I know some people will start to walk in. Now, remember, I do have live chat replay. I also have live chat. So, if it pops up top chat, all you have to do is just choose the option that says live chat, and that actually retains everyone's comments that are in there. Because I know Gorillas was making a comment about, I think, 2 weeks ago, where he said that some of the chats were missing. And I said, oh no, they're not missing, because I've always checked them after I've posted them up there and put them in. Hello, Resolute Germ. Welcome, sir. Thank you for coming to the stream. We were just about to get started. So very, very opportune time for you to come in. So anyway, as I was just saying real quick, I told Gorillas that Yeah, it's gonna show top chat whatever you're doing on a stream. But as long as, like I said, if you choose the option where it says live chat, it will record what you have there. And I've never banned anybody in my life, so don't worry. You're not going to lose your chats. And if they do, well, then that's the problem of YouTube. It's not me. Okay, I did the best I can, and I'm so sorry I don't have StreamYard. Otherwise, I would do a live, really live, and let you guys in here. But at least I appreciate you down there, and I'm going. Like I said, I do my absolute best to read everybody's comments. I do when they pop up. The only one I think I missed 2 weeks ago was John DeMarco, a good friend, was actually telling me about beheadings beginning on Wednesdays. So a quick shout out to you, John, on that. If you if you read this or hear it or see it, uh, just know I did acknowledge, and I put it in the actually in the comment section down below, that I did acknowledge it. So uh, don't worry about getting all the chats. Oh, okay. Thank you, Resolute. All right, so let's start with the first one. We'll show off each of these DVD covers I have. This is Raiders of the Lost Ark. It came out in 1981. It started in chronologically. It started in South America, 1936 is how it starts out in the movie, and it goes on from there. The main stars in it were, of course, Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. You had uh, Wolf Collar or Kohler, I think it is. He played Dietrich. Uh, you had also John Rhys Davies, who played Sala, and you had Karen Allen, who played uh, Indy's old love interest, Marion Ravenwood. And there was a lot of great actresses in this movie. I really enjoyed it. And oh yes, Paul Freeman. I didn't forget him. Ronald Lacey. And then there was Denham Elliott, who played Marcus. So those were the main ones that were mentioned in that first movie. Okay, so first of all, the basic plot is that Indiana Jones has, he's in South America. He's looking for this golden idol. He finds it, but Paul Freeman, who plays Balak, Balak, uh, actually waits for him, and he gets, up in. Well, first of all, he's betrayed by two people, and there was Alfred Molina. Now, if you guys are familiar with him, he's been in a lot of great movies, and this was one of his very first movies he actually did. And he had, well, I don't want to ruin the movie for you too much, but he doesn't last for very long. But I actually noticed him. I think it was like the fifth or sixth time I watched the film, so personal to me. Okay, so basically, what happens is that uh, he goes through his adventure there. He comes back, and he finds out that his old friend Abner Ravenwood is got caught up in some Nazi nasty business, and they're looking for the lost Ark of the Covenant. So basically, he says, "Okay." Talks to U.S. Army intelligence, and he says, "Okay, I'm going to go look for it." Takes Marcus with him. So they go over there, and you know, like I say, I'm trying to make this as brief as possible. They go through Egypt and into an area called Tanis, which is outside of Cairo. They go. They meet up with Salah. Before this, they did go to Nepal and got into some nasty business there with some Nazis, but there he was able to run into Marion Ravenwood, Karen Allen. So that was fun. Yeah, it was good. So anyway, after that, they basically are trying to get to the Ark. They do find the Will of Souls ahead of Balak, and they go down, and he says, "Snakes. Why do it have to be snakes?" He's afraid of snakes, apparently. It's gonna explain why later on in Last Crusade, and it'll explain it also a little bit in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So anyway, they get down there and they go through all of it, and then they find the lost ark of the covenant Solomon. So they try to bring it out. They bring it out, but then of course Rope comes back. He looks up. He's like, "Oh crap!" And the next thing you know, he's left down or left in there, sealed in with Marion. So you having fun so far? Okay. So anyway, after they get out, they realize they're trying to fly out the thing. So after a brief little battle, and where he punches out a bald headed Nazi who then gets his whole head chopped off. And, it's gruesome, believe me, but it's a cool battle. Anyway, they blow up the plane. So then the next option, well, Balin says, well, we need, and Datrit said, well, we got to get this thing out of here. So let's try to fly it out of Cairo. So they get the trucks and everything else. There's a lot of fun with Indy battling them in their trucks. There's even an actual scene, and you know what? I'm going to say something really quick about these movies. Every time I've seen it, there's always something new that pops out. Something that I've like maybe never caught before. Like, I've seen every one of these movies live, in the theater and everything. But like over time, after you buy the DVD or Blu-ray, and you look at the movies again, you watch them. And just recently, I did some research, so I had to rewatch all four of these again. But anyway, you always find new stuff. So you're like going, okay, uh, one of the scenes when he's fighting in the fighting the trucks, trying to get the trucks off so he can take the one that has the arc in it, and all these soldiers come out. One of the lead soldiers in there is Vic Armstrong. And if some of you recognize him, he's a great stunt coordinator. He's done a lot of Bond films. Before this, he did uh, a lot of other action movies, so forth. He is one of the best in Hollywood. So I can understand why Steven Spielberg, who directed, got him to work the stunts. So yeah, but you see him briefly, and he's uncredited in the credits, starring wise. But he's there. You see him, and then they mention him later in the credits. So that's good. So anyway, after all that, uh, let's see. Oh yeah, okay. So he takes the truck himself. He's got it. He pushed the rest of the other bad guys off the road. He took the truck, took it to a ship. The ship uh, took with his captain and his pirates. It's one of those supply ships, but usually pirates run it in that area. So we are talking about the late 1930s. So and some ships were being pirated on uh, overseas and taken, with all these weapons and everything. So basically, this is one of those ships that the Ark ends up on, and Indy and Marion try to, restore each other's relationship with each other, and all of a sudden, then we guess that they had a night, but we'll just stick with that. They had a night to recover and reminisce about old times. Let's just say that. Okay. And then, of course, the Nazis have a U-boat, and they are able to track down the ship and get the Ark back. But uh, and they take Marion with them. So Indy's able to get on board to the U-boat. They go back to a pen, a submarine pen. Sorry, which is somewhere in Cyprus area near Turkey. It's hidden. But remember, this is just before World War II starts. So it's not detected yet. Nobody knows about it. So they bring the Ark there. And then what happens is they're going to walk the Ark out. Balak says, well, instead of going to Berlin, Germany, and exposing it to Adolf Hitler himself, he decides to go ahead and do a Jewish ritual ceremony over the Ark outside the submarine pen base. So they, uh, you know, Indy somehow finds him, and he's going to blow it up. But no, no, he's an archaeologist first, and and a teacher, and a human being third. And he says, no, no, I can't blow it up. I want to know what's in there. So he refuses. And then, of course, he gets captured. So then it's him and Marion are tied up to this big, huge eye. I'm not sure what the symbolism of that eye was. Maybe it was a way to direct power from it, or to see from it, or do whatever. Still I can't understand what the reason for that eye is. So anyway, uh, the Balak acts as like a Jewish priest because I guess he knows rituals. Dietrich's there, and then of course their real bad man uh, is there too. I wish I could remember his name. I'm sorry, but he's very bad. So the three of them are standing over the ark, and Balak does his thing, and then they open it up, and all hell ensues, chaos, everything. Uh, I won't ruin the end for you, but long story short, everybody gets killed pretty much on the base. Hi, beautiful. Thank you for turning on the light for me. That was my beautiful wife, Suzanne. So that really explains the first movie, and my review of it is I really did enjoy a lot of it. When I first saw it in theaters back in 1981, I was really excited because this reminded me of a lot of those old, 40s and 50s, 30s, 40s, 50s, uh, small movie serials, where they had a cliffhanger every week. I never got to see them because I was born in 1965. So, I don't get to see those kind of things till later. But suffice it to say, I really did enjoy what Spielberg put together as a director for this movie. He worked with George Lucas. Uh, you know, fun fact: uh, George wanted to produce his own James Bond movie, and Spielberg said, "Well, we could make him like James Bond and kind of like turn him into a professor slash archaeologist kind of deal, character like that." And they said, "Yeah, that sounds cool." So that's what they decided to do with Indy, is make him into a professor and an archaeologist. But most archaeologists back then were considered grave robbers. They would go into the tunnels and passageways and everything, like you know tombs and places like that, just to find a buried treasure or hidden treasure or something. Excuse me. So, but yes, my review of this first movie is I gave it A minus, and I'm sure that I had to build that grade up over time because, like I said, going from a theater to get actually buying the DVD, and then watching a few more times, and then of course again watching that last night, finding that new wrinkle I had noticed before. So for me, yeah, A minus. So that takes care of the first movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now the next one, and this came out in 1984, was actually it's the second movie in the series, but it's considered a prequel because chronologically, what it starts with in the beginning of this movie is Shanghai 1935. So this is the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and like I said, 1984, and it stars, of course, Harrison Ford, and then you have Kate Capshaw, who plays Willie Scott, a singer that he runs into. You have the introduction of Kiwi Kwan, who plays Short Round, his sidekick in the film, very short kid. And I do want to also mention here that Kiwi Kwan actually won an Academy Award, an Oscar, for a film he did earlier last year. So Congratulations, Kiwi Kwan, for that. Also, Amrish Puri, uh, he was the minister of the place they're going to, Bangkok Palace. Uh, Roshan Seth was the bad guy, Mularam. You had Philip Stone. There was also a brief cameo from Dan Aykroyd in the film. That was fun to watch. So, we'll go over this one real quick. So, what we had in this was, like I said, Shanghai. And the other thing, too, which is fun to watch in these movies, is Easter eggs. And you know what they mean by Easter eggs now? It's like if you catch certain things from other movies, other shows, TV, series, things like that. It's very cute because because actually in these movies, if you do watch, Steven Spielberg takes from some of his films and puts it in the film, and George Lucas, who is his best buddy, also puts in things from different films that he's done, including Star Wars films. So it's very cute when the two of them actually share that. So basically, what happens is that uh, Indiana Jones runs into Willie Scott. He loses a buddy of his. I believe that's the buddy that was played by Philip Stone. But then, after he died, uh, in this club, which is called Club Obi-Wan, see what I mean? And after a fun fight, everything going on, Indy and Willie uh, fly down a bunch of balconies and things, and fly right into the car. And there's little Short Round who's going to be driving the thing. Yeah, that's a lot of fun, I bet, for him. But I don't think he actually drove it. They showed something behind the scenes where he was like pretending that he was driving it. But I think they used a lot of green screen and other stuff, blue screen probably. Uh, and a lot of matte photography and stuff for to show that he was, but wasn't. But anyway, so they get on, and the guy that's chasing them is Lao She, which was his club, and then they get on the plane, but it's one of Lao She's planes. Oops. So the pilots abandon them, leave them with no parachutes. And so what happens is they take a huge rubber boat out of the thing and use it like a parachute. So you've got three people flying in this huge rubber boat in the middle of the in the sky, and they're getting ready to crash. And they hit the side of a mountain, and they're skipping along it and everything. The plane crashes, it's gone, and they go from the cliff, the mountain, off the cliff, down all into some water, and then the water flows as a river does and goes to a waterfall, and they go over that, and then they're you know back normal again. They're just floating down the river, and eventually they come to India, and Willie says, "Well, how do you know?" And he says, he points up. All he has to do is just look up with his head, and they see a priest there who is, an Indian priest who's there to meet them at the river's edge, which is very cool. Now, what happens is that in this case, like I said, it was the Ark, the last movie. This one, they're looking for the Chakra stones. These are supposed to have mythical and magical powers. They're supposed to bring back life to a dead village, and one of those Chakra stones was stolen. So Indy, Willie, and Short Round are supposed to, uh, before they get any help from the priest, they're asked politely to go into uh, Bangkok Palace in Bangkok, India, and to go recover the chakra stones. I tend to say chakra, so if I say that, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. So they go in there, and of course they're met by the minister, and then they're met by the Maharaja, who is a young boy, probably no more than 10 years old, probably about Short Round's age at that time, which is Willie Scott, was thinking she could date the Maharaja and get some, you know, gold, riches, and jewels and things. And then she sees how young he is, and it's hilarious. It really is. You have to tend to laugh if you see it, in that scene especially. But anyway, so what happens is that Indy, uh, you know, wants to go find the stones, of course, because these people are lying to him. They're not making it obvious, but they're lying. I mean, he wants to go find them. And he gets attacked in his room, but he beats that. And then he's going to go in and he finds a secret passage, goes in, and he and Short Round go look for this thing. And of course, they get trapped. And, well, then Willie has to follow them. Well, you're going to find that every one of these movies has some kind of insect or a pest, a rodent, or things that step out. Like I said, the first one had snakes. This one has cockroaches, scorpions, all kinds of nasty little critters, nasty little insects. So Willie's trying to get through that. She does. She saves their life, and then she says, but almost gets him killed again. And then they go down into the catacombs, and that's where they find out about the Thuggy cult, which is an ancient cult that promoted evil, destruction, chaos. And of course, Nola Ram is heading them. And he's down there with all these people who seem like they're in a catatonic state. And so he has to do something. Indy has to do something to stop him. And so he's going to go down there first to get the Shakara. See, I said it again. If Gorilla was here, he should take a shot every time I say that wrong. Chakra for Shakara. So he goes down there to the Shakara stones to try to retrieve them. But then he hears something. His morals kick in again. And this time he hears a child screaming. He goes down there and he finds out that Molaram not only is looking for 2 more Shakara stones, but he is abusing children, he is whipping them, he's torturing them, and they're trying to dig to try to find these stones. And it's just insane. And Indy says, yeah, I'm going to stop this. So he goes down there. But of course, unfortunately, he gets captured, and both Willie and Short Round eventually will get captured too. So basically, then what happens is Molaram's going to try to convert Indiana Jones to his religion, and he makes him drink some blood, which is tainted and bad, and gives him. It's like living in a dead. I forget what one of the kids said, but it was like living in a nightmare, and you just can't wake up from it. That's bad stuff. And so after that episode, then they go and Nola Ram's ready to sacrifice another person. He did so earlier in the previous ceremony I was just talking about. But now, with the Shakara stones in place, he wants to kill Willie Scott. Well, Indy can't do anything about it. He's under the control of Nola Ram and the rest. And he's ready to kill her and, bring her down and hellfire and whatever. And Short Round, of course, because he was captured, he's working on the, trying to find the stones himself. But eventually he's able to escape. And so what he does is he goes and tries to go find Indy, and he finds him. And somehow, after getting hit by Indy, I mean really hard, finds a way to, you know, get him out of his nightmare by burning him with a poker or something, and a stick with fire on it, whatever it was. And he got him, but he doesn't know it yet. So then, after that, he comes over and he says, "I'm okay." He says, "I'm okay, buddy." And they go and save Willie and save him. And then you have this wonderful adventure they go on mine cars. Now, I'm going to quote a friend of mine. I don't think he's here yet, so I can probably say this. But don't hate me, Professor, if I say it. What I was going to mention was that Professor wasn't really into the mine cars. Let's just say that. And I was like, well, you know what? I really enjoyed it, not for the fact that it was just mine cars being chasing each other and the villains getting, the bad guys getting thrown and crash and all this stuff. But what happens is that Nola Ram eventually says, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and flood the caverns and the caves and everything." So he goes ahead and does that, and of course, the three of them get out, before everything goes to heck, and they're out there. Then to get to the other side, they have to cross this huge wooden bridge with planks and tied bamboo and all this other stuff. And so he sends Willie and Short Round across the bridge, and of course they run into the bad guys on the one side. Well, then Indy's almost gone into the middle of the bridge, and the bad guys are on the other side. So they're trying to catch them, uh, kill them in a what I'd like to call a pincer movement. Yeah, and so after that happens, uh, he's in the middle, and he says, Nola Ram, prepare to meet Kali. Kali is the bad spirit that took over the Shakara stone. He says, prepare to meet Kali in hell. And he cuts the middle of the bridge. And after a few Wilhelm screams and a bunch of people falling to their deaths, and don't forget if you have seen the movie, there are crocodiles down there in the river, and they're ready to eat people as soon as they hit. So, so you really have to be careful of that. So yeah, he gets him down there, and then of course he's hanging off the side of the cliff, on the one cliff side. Nola Ram's trying to climb up there. They're fighting. Uh, Nola Ram's gonna start maybe trying to grab for his heart to, pull it out of him while he's still alive, but kill him eventually. And Indy's able to fight him off, kick him off, and well, that's it for him. But what happens with the Shakara stones? See, I'm going to leave you a little bit of a cliffhanger myself, not tell you the end of it, like I did for Raiders. So, what happens to the Ark? What happens to the stones? You'll just have to watch the movies to find out. Yeah. Or you can ask around. People will tell you anyway. So, Resolute, I hope you're enjoying this. I hope some more people show. I'm glad you're here, as I said before. And so now we will get to the next movie. And before we do, I think this is probably where I'll go ahead and mention the Young Indiana Jones real quick. But before I do, let me give you my grade on Temple of Doom. I did give it a B eventually. The reason I gave that is because at the time I saw it, and then of course after I got it later on and stuff, and every time I see it, it's still just too dark for me. I mean, you've got the Fuggy Colt. You've got hi gorillas, hi, welcome. Okay, I'll watch this in the morning. Okay, thank you, sir. You'll enjoy it. I hope. I hope you do. And I will come into your stream later on this week if you're going to do a movie on Saturday or Sunday. Sorry, Sunday. Yeah, I would like to be there for you. But thank you for popping in. I appreciate it. Anyway, so like I said, I gave the movie a B, and like I said, my quick review is it was very dark. Uh, there were some funny moments. I mean, you know, Willie falling off an elephant for real. Uh, you know, Short Round getting, his licks and everything else. But yeah, it just seemed like it was just so serious. And I mean, I understand it was a sequel to Raiders. I understand, but not really a sequel. It's more of a prequel. But it just, I don't know. I'm thinking that maybe they should have just either avoided making this at all, or they could have just maybe done like a introductory, short part of it before they did Raiders, and then maybe that would have explained a lot. I don't know how producers and directors act. I don't know how they think. They have to use writers to write this stuff. And I'm not sure how they came up with the idea that they were going to have a movie like this to be serious. But I know that a lot of people didn't like it. Now I liked it myself eventually, like I said, but you know, there's still just a lot of darkness about it. And then of course, the mine car chase and stuff like that. I understand that's pretty silly. Yeah, it was. And I understand Professor's Brady Speck's thoughts on that. I really do. So anyway, like I said, I gave it a B. I enjoyed it. It was okay, but it's not one of the best of the four, which will soon be five movies. We hope that the fifth one is just a better movie. We hope it is. So anyway, all right. So the next one up came out in 1989, and that was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I said 89. Again, it has Denham Elliott in there as Marcus. Indiana Jones, of course, to Harrison Ford. Allison Doody. Now, if you recognize her, she uh, played a Bond villainous girl uh, in the James Bond film that had Roger Moore in it, A View to a Kill. She was in that. And she was one of the girls that died in that movie. Sorry, spoiler alert for that. Which was under Grace Jones' Mayday's cadre of women that fought against James Bond. So she ended up in this movie uh, as Dr. Schneider. Then you had John Rhys Davies, who came back as Sala. And then you had Julian Glover, who plays Walter Donovan. And we don't know this till later, but he secretly announced that Indy, as the first thing they do at the beginning of the movie, they introduce young Indy from he was with his Boy Scout troop in Utah, 1912. Supposedly, this was the first time that he actually found an item known as the Cross of Coronado and declared it that it should go into a museum. And the young Indiana Jones played at the beginning of the movie is by River Phoenix. He's the one that actually died in the Viper Room. Some people said he died of natural causes. Some people said he died of murder. Drugs. That too. So, but he's in. This was one of his last few films that he did, and so Spielberg wanted him to play the young Indy to start. So, they go through. He goes through his adventures. What he does is he leaves the Boy Scout troop. He's in the cavern with a friend of his, and they find a group of grave robbers. And the head grave robber, has the signature hat that eventually would become Indiana Jones' uh, trademark. Would be the felt hat, and he has that on. And they find the cross, the gold cross of Coronado. And of course, Indy says this should be in a museum. So he goes down, grabs it. He's running. They're chasing him. He gets to a train, which is running with circus animals in it. He ends up going through this one train car, which has snakes in it, and he falls into the snakes. So we're thinking that's why he's afraid of snakes, because he had them all over his body, crawling all over him. He barely gets out. So It's a lot of fun, really, just to watch River Phoenix fall into a box of snakes. It really is. But anyway, so he manages to get out of that situation. He gets off the train car, manages to escape from the train by magic, a magic box, and and then he escapes. So he goes back home, and you see the mailbox says Jones, and you're thinking, okay, who else is there? And voila, it's Dad. Now, I found out in the credits that when you first see the back of Henry Jones, because Indiana Jones' real name, of course, is Henry Jones Jr., when you see the back of his father, that's not really Sean Connery, Sir Sean Connery yet. That is Alex Hyde White, and he's portraying his dad from the backside. They said that in the credits. I was like, wow, that's cool. And but you don't know that, like I said, until you watch it a number of times and realize that's not him yet. So the sheriff comes in and says, I've got 5 witnesses. Um, please return the cross. And he does without getting arrested. But then, the guy with the felt hat says, here, he gave him his felt hat and said, you lost today, kid, but you don't have to like it. And gives him the thing. So then, 26 years until he ends up on the Portuguese coast, 1938, where he's on board the Coronado. And on this ship is where he gets a hold of the cross of Coronado. And he manages to escape the ship before it explodes, before everybody dies on it, including the head guy that took the cross back from him in 1912. So before I continue with this review on Last Crusade, I just wanted to say that young Indiana Jones, it featured an actor named Sean Patrick Flannery, and what he did was he, excuse me, he went over these different adventures. These were adventures that Indy went through as he was growing up. So my guess is that it was filling that 26 years of time until he ends up on the Coronado ship in 1938. So I figured that probably covers everything there. There were some cool adventures on the Indiana Jones series. There was a time he met Pancho Villa, which he briefly mentions in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, to his son. I'll tell you about that later. Also, he met up with uh, Adolf Hitler in Last Crusade, and wasn't aware that was going to happen. He also met up with Al Capone, like I said, in Chicago. He met up with a bunch of uh, what was the name of the one? Oh, Mr. Livingston, I presume. He met up with those guys, Stanley and Livingston, and then of course he met up with a bunch of other different guest stars and so forth, Edison and some other people. It's and Houdini of course. There was a lot of cool adventures, as I said, because when you had guest stars that popped in, that was a lot of fun. So anyway, I'll just go ahead and give the Indiana Jones Adventures a solid B, and we'll just go from there. We'll just continue on with the review here of Last Crusade. Uh, there you go, Professor. I covered it pretty quickly, didn't I? Okay. So, and back to Crusade. So after he gets off the ship, boom, boom, blows up, he gets the cross, shows it to Marcus, says, you know, I want my honorarium, my dinner, free champagne, all this stuff on your ticket. And he says, okay. And then what happens is, uh, Indy goes back to his classroom, and then he goes to his office, and he says, "Now everybody one at a time," and he tells his secretary, "Look, you know, write down the people that came in to start, because they're all massing on him because term papers haven't been graded, nothing else has been done. He hasn't been able to get any work done. I mean, come on, he's an archaeologist. He goes out in the field, and he ignores his classes. Let's be honest, he does. He'd rather be out there chasing the Ark or Shakara stones, or in this case, going after the Holy Grail. The cup of Christ that was at his crucifixion and also at the Last Supper. And so he's going to go look for the cup of Christ, and he gets kidnapped. And eventually, we find out that Walter Donovan, a noted archaeologist himself, as well as a collector of antiquities, wants him to go find the Holy Grail. And he says, okay. And so, who's the project leader? Well, it was his dad, Henry Jones. You know, and he's like, wow. So I wonder what happened to Dad. Ah, greetings, John. Hello. You haven't missed much, John. I only mentioned the first two films, and I promised Professor Brainy Specs I wouldn't mention too much of young Indiana Jones. So I just got through giving a quick review on that. Don't worry. Don't worry. You're just in time. We're really going to get into Dial of Destiny later. So your thoughts and views on that. I'd love to hear them. So anyway, getting back to this quick review. So after Indiana Jones has talked with Donovan, he goes to Venice, Italy, where he found out that's where his dad was last moment before he disappeared. And he was actually looking for the tomb of Sir Richard, who was one of the last of three crusaders who came out of the desert 150 years later uh, and came back and gave all the instructions where to find, about the Grail and everything else like that. And he put two markers that would signify to everyone, where they could find it. But it has to stay where it is. You'll find that in a few minutes why. So anyway, Dr. Schneider and Indy go down there and they find the tomb of Sir Richard. But what they have is a group called the Cruciform Soul. These are a group of Muslims uh, from who are basically tasked to protect the Grail from being found and from being taken. And so they try to set fire to to Elsa. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, her first name was Elsa. So they tried to set fire to Elsa in Indy. Very scary. But they get out of it. Oh, and by the way, the uh, pests, the pests in this one are rats. And Indy specifically says that his dad couldn't get past them. He wouldn't have been able to make it past the rats. So that's good to know. Knowing that Indy's afraid of snakes and his dad is afraid of rats. Something we found out. So that's pretty cool. Then after that escapade, they're on a boat and on the waters there, and they get chased by boat and everything else, and the boat's breaking up, and he gets a hold of the leader of the Cruciform, and he says to him, "Hey, why are you trying to kill us?" He says, "I'm not." He says, "We are solely to protect the Grail," and this is one of the best lines in the movie that the Cruciform leader says before Indy lets him go, and he finds out where his dad is at. He's been kidnapped and brought to the Austria uh, Germany border in a castle Broomwald. So before they go out to go get Dad, uh, the Cruciform leader says, "Is it for his glory or yours? Like, is it for the glory of Christ or is it for you?" And he says, "I'm not." He says, "I'm not worried about the glory." Indy says, "I'm not worried about the glory. I'm to go find my father, my dad." And he says, "Okay." He said, tells him where he is, and then that's it. So then they take the car, very nice car, by the way, and they drive all the way to the castle that he talked about. And remember, now we don't know anything much about Elsa other than she was the assistant to Dad. But then we find out in a few minutes what else we find out about her. So, anyway, they get to the castle. They knock out the butler who says, "If you're a Scottish lord," which Indy's trying to pretend himself as, "then I am Mickey Mouse." And he punches him, knocks him out. Indy's got very strong punches and knocks people out with one or two of them. He's a good strong fighter. So he knocks him out, and then they go into the castle, and all of a sudden they come across a control room, and in there they have all the German, uh, you know, engineers and things, radio communication, all that. And he looks up at Elsa and says, "Nazis, I hate these guys." And so uh, he goes and they find the room that Dad's in, but they won't go in the front door because Indy says it's wired. And they look up and say, "Oops, yeah." So he goes over to the other one and he leaves. He says, "Wait here, I'll be back." Leaves Elsa there, and he, goes out into the rain with his whip and goes from one balcony to another. Comes over to Dad's room and goes in there. And the first time we see Sir Sean Connery, I mean, it wasn't Sir yet, but I'd like to acknowledge that he is because he has already passed away. Rest in peace, Sean. And so, Sir Sean Connery, the very first time we see him fully in the movie, and he hits his son with a vase. I mean, come on. Not like, "Who are you?" or something. He just immediately hits him with a Ming vase. But we find out the Ming vase later is fake. So, and he said, "Junior," he calls him Junior, and of course, Indy hates that. And he says, "Well, I knew you'd come." He says, "I had a feeling you'd come for me." He says, "I'm glad I sent you the book, his diary." That's what they were looking for in the very beginning. Besides the Holy Grail, was to find Henry Jones' diary because it had all the description of where the Grail is and everything else through all the research he did all those years. And so, they all of a sudden the door opens and here comes some Germans in or Nazis in, and they're saying, "Hand over the book," and they know where the book is. So then Andy starts to suspect something, and he says, "Okay." Well, then after a little argument, he beats them up, gets a hold of a machine gun, and they start to go over to where Elsa was waiting. And there's the other guy that's holding Elsa hostage. Yeah, right. My son wouldn't be dumb enough, and he says, "I should have mailed it to the Marx Brothers." That's great, John. Yep, that's one of my favorite lines for that scene. It really is. It really is. So yeah, so they go into the other room, and there's Elsa being held hostage and a gun to her head, and and of course, um, you know, older or Dad Jones says uh, she's a Nazi, and of course, uh, Indy says what, and he says, "Yeah, don't trust her, don't listen to her." But he puts down his machine gun, and then of course, uh, you know, Elsa says, "But you should have listened to your father." And he says, "Oh crap, that's it. Jig is up." And so we find out that she was planted as a planted Nazi to lure him, and yeah. So anyway, they get a hold of the diary, but there were some pages that were torn out previous to that Marcus was able to take to Iskendron because they were able to figure out that used to be Alexandretta, and that used to be on the Pilgrim Trail for the Holy Crusades. So they know they have a starting point to where they can go from, and then eventually get to where the Canyon of the Crescent Moon and where the cup is supposed to be. So after uh, a little bit of problems, they set the place on fire, the castle, because it got tied up, and uh, Dad tried to, burn through the ropes with Indy's lucky lighter, and that didn't work. They ended up setting fire and everything. But after they escape, uh, Dad tells him, he says, "Look, we need, they're at the crossroads. They could go on back to Venice, or they could go to Berlin." And he says, "We need to go to Berlin." He says, "Why do we need to go to the lion's den?" And he says, "Well, because there's many other uh, things afoot when you go to try to find the cup, and they're all in the diary. I need it." He says, "Okay." So reluctantly, they drive on to Berlin, and Indy finds Elsa, and Elsa's trying to explain herself. I'm sorry for becoming a Nazi, but I don't like what they're doing. They're burning books, they're doing all these things, and I don't want to be a part of it. And Indy just doesn't believe her because she lied to him all this time, up to that point. But I thought in that scene that she was sincere, so I figured, she wants out of it, but she can't get out of it. She just feels trapped. And of course, after he gets the diary back from her, he's passing through the crowd and everything. It's a parade for Hitler. And Hitler himself actually comes up, runs into Indiana Jones, takes the book because he feels it like it might be an autograph book or something, writes his full name, Adolf Hitler, in there, and then lets him go. And I was, wow, okay. That was a tense scene, but they somehow got through it. So then after that, they're going to take a Zeppelin. And I thought maybe that was a little bit of a tribute to uh, the Zeppelin that blew up in New Jersey, the Hindenburg. I thought that was a little tribute to it. They get on the Zeppelin, they're going out, and in the middle of it, they find out, you know, they first of all they find out that all those years and they weren't able to say maybe at most 10 words between them because he was so dedicated to finding the Grail and its secrets and all this other stuff. And Indy, just went about his life. He lived his life the way he was supposed to, but without much of his father's supervision. And that's what he tells him. And he says, "Well, okay, I knew it so well. I mean, I knew the routine so well that I could, do anything, and you wouldn't really do anything about it until mom died, and even after mom died, his mom." So, they have this little discussion. Then, of course, they find out that the Zeppelin's headed the wrong way. So, some of the early Zeppelins, and I don't know, maybe John can answer this for me, but some of the early Zeppelins didn't have planes that were attached to them. But I think after Hitler took power, I think that's when they decided to have the Zeppelins have a little plane on it, like an escape plane or something. I am not sure about that. I mean, like I said, maybe John can answer or Resolute can let me know. Uh, anyway, so after they take the plane, then they're chased by two of the two German planes. I don't know if they're the Messerschmitt kind or uh, they're one of their Scud planes or something like that. But there's two of them. They chase after the small plane they're in. They try to shoot them down. They don't succeed, but one of them, one of the planes, they managed to crash land, because Indy said, "I can fly, but I can't land." So I'm gonna take my glasses off here because it's getting a little hard for me to see. There we go. So anyway, so then what happens is they crash land and they're going. They find a car. Well, they steal a car. Okay, they steal this nice little car and they're driving. The plane follows them into this tunnel. It breaks off its wings. It's burning up. It's in flames, and then it blows up just as they're getting out of the tunnel, and they think they're in the clear. Well, then the second plane shows up, and and they're driving, and all of a sudden it drops a bomb and creates a huge, big ditch hole, and they crash into it. So then Indy says, "Come on, Dad," and this one gets him out. They're running. They go down to the beach, and I think this is probably one of the greatest. To me, this is one of the greatest scenes in the whole film. Is there the plane's coming, and all of a sudden, Dad pulls out his parasol or or no, I'm sorry, um, yeah, parasol, right, like a a little umbrella thing, and he goes over to the seagulls and goes, "Cook, cook, 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 cook," gets them all excited and crazy, and all of them end up flying into the plane and and into the pilot's seat and create all sorts of havoc and problems. Yes, the greatest use of seagulls as a weapon in cinema. Totally agree with you. That's why I said I love it. I love that scene. I would wa- I would watch that scene over and over because it's so much fun and quite realistic because uh, I think it was assumed that there might have been birds that caused Sully's problem with his airplane later on, the one that crashed in New York, the Long Island one. Yeah, it would have made a lot of sense. Or they could have been geese. They could have been anything. But they said the birds were maybe would have been partly involved. But I agree with you, John. That was a great scene. So then the seagulls cause the crash, the plane crashes, and then they're safe for the moment. So and then uh, after that happens, they they go to try to find Marcus in Iskenderun, but he's already been captured, and Sala unfortunately led him into a trap. So then when Dad and Indy get there, Sala meets him and says, "Yeah, Marcus is kidnapped, and we need to go get him." And so they go out there into the desert, and there's a tank, there's a bunch of trucks, and then a small little sedan vehicle that has Marcus and Donovan uh, and Elsa in it, and the driver, and then uh, which was all arranged. It's in the Republic, what they call the Republic of Hatay or Hatay, and the head of the Maharaj of Hatay was able to make a deal with some of the Nazis, and that's where Elsa tells them, "Yeah, Dad and Indy escaped, and they're on their way, so they're going to prepare for them." And then, of course, you have this great chase scene. Uh, they bring their car out, and then, of course, uh, Indy says, "No, they don't. They can't find. They don't have the range." And all of a sudden, a tank shoots and blows up the car, and you find out it was Sala's brother-in-law's car, and he says, "Oh crap!" So they're out in the desert, and then of course Donovan says, or Donovan, I'm just gonna say Donovan, sorry. So Donovan says, with this weather, the desert, everything, they're as good as dead. And then all of a sudden, the cruciform soul, uh, you know, the remaining forces attack the Nazis, and of course they get slaughtered. But Elsa recognizes the man, the one that allowed them to live and lead them to go find his dad in the first place. So she actually has a moment of remorse watching this guy die, Kazim, and so you know, it's kind of a poignant moment. I liked it because it seemed like Elsa was still steadily, you know, maybe going to turn over a new leaf. You thought maybe there was some hope for her yet, uh, So, and then what happens is they said, "We'll transfer Marcus to the tank," and so he's in the tank, and then uh, Indy and his dad they go after the tank, and they have a little bit of a firefight, some shooting, people dying. He gets his dad gets trapped into the tank as well uh, to try to get Marcus out. He sneaks up on it, but then he gets captured. So the two of them are in there, and Sala brings in a whole bunch of camels. And he says, I don't want camels. I wanted horses. He says, these are in compensation for my brother in law. I hope I did his voice right. These are in compensation for my brother in law. So I'm like, okay. So, because Indy brought 5 horses and Saleh brings up 5 camels. But you don't see those camels anywhere anymore, pretty much after you see them there, and I don't think you see them again in the rest of the desert scenes, really. Uh, I didn't really see them there. So, anyway, after that, then, Indiana Jones goes to get his dad and Marcus out of the tank. They're fighting. He gets the main bad guy. They're fighting each other. He bangs his head into the tank a few times. And of course, as the tank's headed for the cliff, and you think that, Sal is able to get, Dad and Marcus out, but can't get to Indy. And so when Indy and the tank go over and the bad guy, uh, you're like, oh crap. So Indy's dead, and you hear this big explosion and everything. Well, I guess what happened was is that Indy was able to somehow jump from the tank as it was going over and grabbed onto a huge branch or a huge vine or something and was able to keep himself alive. So then he crawls up out of it and he's standing there looking down. They're all looking down because they think he died. And Dad says, "I didn't get to tell him, Marcus. I had all that time. I never got to tell him how I felt and all this stuff." And of course, he's standing there. I started laughing at that point. I admit it. And he says, "Well, I missed you, boy. I thought you were dead, boy, or son, or something." And he felt the real love from his dad at that point. And then, of course, he falls because he's exhausted. And his dad says, "Come on, Junior." He says, "Let's go. There's so much to be done." And all of a sudden, his felt hat arrives out of nowhere and it flies back. And I'm kind of curious, was that God that gave him his hat back, or just a burst of wind, or what? I don't know. But it just appeared to him. So he was able to get that. So then they go over there to, uh, yeah, they go over to where uh, the where it leads into the canyon of the crescent moon. They show an outline so that you can tell it's the canyon of the crescent moon. And so they're on horses. Like I said, I don't know what happened to the camels. They must have disappeared somewhere. And they ride into uh, the palace, which is, of course, it's an old palace there. And they go in, and already they find out that Donovan beat them there to it. And they are sending somebody in. And what you find out later on is a whole bunch of them were sent in. A bunch of these, tribal guides and whatever. And they all died. You got their heads decapitated or they got their arms cut out or, whatever happened. And they're sending in their next victim. And he goes in and you hear this whoosh of air and then all of a sudden, whoop, his head comes off and rolls down. And then, of course, Marcus doesn't realize that some of the soldiers snuck up on them while they were watching this whole incident ensue. So then they get captured. And then Donovan says, "You're going to help us, Indy. You're going to go in there and get the cup for us." And he says, "No." And then all of a sudden, Walter shoots, Dad in the chest. And he's not going to last long because he got directly shot, right near his heart. He's not going to last too long. And so then Indy has to go into all these treacherous traps, booby traps. And the first one is he has to kneel before God. It says that you prostrate yourself before the breath of God. And then, he figured out that you had to kneel. So he kneels and, avoids getting his head cut off. And he stops it. Then he goes to the next, uh, you know, the word of Jehovah, uh, you know, he'll prove it. He'll prove he can. In the words of Jehovah. And so he says he's ready to step on the J, but then his dad remarks, but in the Hebrew it starts with an I, not a J. So he hits the J, and he almost falls through to his death, by jumping on the J stone. So he says, "Oh, no, no, no." He says, "In Hebrew it starts with an I." So then he goes IEHOVAH and gets all through it, and then he sees the lion's head off to his left, and where it said, you know, through the lion's head. When you walk through the lion's head, he'll prove his worth, and he doesn't know what that means, but he realizes he keeps hearing back in the background that his dad is dying even more suddenly now, and he needs to hurry. So he takes his very, and it's like a leap of faith, right? So he takes his first step, and he actually lands on solid, uh, excuse me, a solid stone bridge. So, and it's reflected in a way that it's supposed to remain invisible, and so nobody would think that you get the other side. But like it said, if you have a leap of faith and you walk down, you'll land on it, and then you walk across. So what he does is he takes a little bit of pebbles and sand and whatever, throws on it so he can find the back, and he walks across, and he goes there, and he finds the final Holy Crusader knight that's been waiting all this time. And, you know, the Crusader knight is supposed to defend the cup of Christ to his death, so he starts to try to fight Indy, but Indy, of course, he knows he's advanced age, he's not going to be able to fight me that well, and pushes him off and whatever. And he says, "You're oddly, you know, dressed for a knight." And he says, "No." He says, I'm just here to find the cup." And all of a sudden, Donovan and Elsa walk up behind him. So he knows he was followed. And then uh, what happens is they're trying to figure out which one is the cup of Christ. And they find this really huge goblet, golden goblet. And Elsa, I know at that point, she's still trying to change her ways. So in effect, she tricks Donovan into thinking this could be the Christ and has him grab the goblet. So when he goes to grab it, he puts it in the wellspring, which has a bunch of, holy water in it. Grabs it, he puts it in the goblet, and he drinks it. Well, like I said, you find out what happened to him. Uh, he turns old, turns into a skeleton, bam, smash, and that's it. So I think I'll end that synopsis there because I want people to see it because it's interesting. How do you figure out what is the real cup? And they actually figure it out that it's supposed to be a cup of a carpenter. But you'll find out when you see the movie, and towards that end part. It's really interesting. It's very cool. Um, but also, don't forget when you watch the film, remember that the knight said, you know, immortality is there, but you can't cross the Great Seal. That plays into play later on. So make sure you follow that. So my review then on Last Crusade, I would give it a definite a solid A. It's still a great movie. It's probably one of the better, in my opinion, it's one of the better uh, movies in the trilogy, the first three that they did. Uh, and I thought for sure after everything happened that it was gonna, close. I mean, even Spielberg said it himself. He wasn't gonna do any more. Thought that was it. And the only way they would agree to do another one would be if it was Harrison himself and Lucas agreeing to do it, to do another film. So now I'd like to go ahead and get your guys' comments on the first three before I go in delve real quickly into Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I'd like to know what you guys think. John has quoted some really amazing quotes from Crusade. Uh, Resolute, if you've still been listening, do you have any thought? Did you want to say anything? I know Gorillas has already told me he'll be here to listen to it later. Um, so, but if you've already left with Gorillas, that's fine because I know you guys got your own show going on too. So basically, like I say, the first three movies are all very good in their own way. I'm not, like I said, I'm not that much into Temple of Doom because I thought it was just too dark. But I'll still watch it because occasionally because I like some of the practical effects in it, so the chasing course of the mine cars and some special effects and visual effects. They were all very good. And the thing you really, like I said, the thing you really enjoy about these three movies is that they are not CGI. They haven't been remastered. They haven't been changed. Every one of them has its own unique quality for the 80s. It covers the entire decade of the 80s, right? It goes from 81 to 89. It covers everything. The Young Indiana Jones Adventures were included later on during the course of the movies. They tried to fill in the gaps. Okay, that's what its purpose was. Yeah, I agree with you, John. It's a great film. Uh, but I think Last Crusade is my favorite indie movie. Yes, you and I both agree on that. We both agree on that. I believe that it was the best of the three. And what's cool is that if they had decided to make this like a James Bond series, they would have asked Connery first to do it. If not, they would have asked somebody else. But the fact that they were able to get Sir Sean Connery to be in there for the third film made it a whole lot better. It really did. And for him to play his dad, because he was older at the time enough to do it, Connery was old enough to do it. I think it was great. I think it was very great. And of course, some of the uh, some of the actors, some of the lesser known actors that I didn't mention. And if I forgot anybody that you were favored with, let me know in the comments. But I think that with uh, the people they had in place for each of the films, those were the actors and actresses you wanted to see. Uh, I don't know so much about Kate Capshaw, and I'll tell you why really quickly. She was just, I don't know. For some reason, she's an actress to me that isn't really okay. She doesn't have a lot of skill. Okay, all she had at that time were looks when they did Temple Doom, and she didn't really have a lot of acting skills yet. She has done other good movies. I'm not gonna lie. She's done other stuff after that, but then we find out, later that she ended up marrying the director, Steven Spielberg, because Steven Spielberg got a little, let's say, horny, and wanted her. So that's what he did. He ended up dating Kate, and then they ended up getting married. I'm assuming they're still married today. I believe they are. But like I said, I think John and I can agree that Temple Doom just wasn't quite there. And like I said, for me, it was just too dark, which is why I got my lowest grade. So, I mean, I'd probably even give it a C if I could, but there's just still a few things that I was able to pick out from it, and so that's why I went ahead and gave it a B overall. But the other two movies, definitely an A and an A minus is what I gave each of those. A minus for Raiders and then A straight up A for Last Crusade, definitely. So let's see where we are. Okay, so now, like I said, in the early '90s they did some Young Indiana Jones as a series to try to fill some gaps, try to catch everybody up on it. We waited 19 years. We went, and they did this in real time with chronologically later in the movie. Of course, that's Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. You can see it there, and this is supposed to be, according chronologically, Nevada in 1957. And so what you see at first is a bunch of guys in army trucks, U.S. Army trucks that are going down the road. It's out in the middle of the desert, so you don't know where it is initially. And then you see these kids in their jalopy that are chasing them. And so one of the kids, the passenger side, dares one of the guys to start, to outrace him. So then the guy is, the army guy is outracing or trying to outrace him and everything. And they get to the Atomic Cafe, and that's where the jalopy goes off. And of course, it's playing a Elvis Presley tune, uh, you know, a hound dog, right? Sorry, hound dog song. So then they separate, and the trucks go off to this other road, and they're going. And eventually, the trucks end up at Area 51. and because I recognized it, it's so funny. I recognized it because of the front gate, right? It's the main gate that goes into it, supposedly. They have a lot of other gates now that have been set up since then for Area 51, but this is, it's like the main thing. And they pull up to the entrance there, and they're going to test an atomic bomb blast in less than 20. In less than 24 hours. And so all personnel are told to get off the base. And, even these people, they tell these army guys to leave. And all of a sudden, the guy comes out that's supposed to be like a colonel and is, oh, hello, colonel or general or whatever. And then, of course, he bends down to tie his shoe, and everybody else gets shot and killed. So then uh, the army guys all travel up to one of the hangars of Area 51, and they go into this car, into the trunk, and somehow they pull out uh, Indy's friend first, who's played. Uh, you know what? I forgot to mention the names again. Okay, so the one that plays the dean of the college is uh, is Jim Broadbent, uh, and then because and then he'll come later. John Perkins, he plays Oxley. Uh, there's let's see, let's get my glasses so I can read these names clear enough. Okay, so Ray Winstone, who plays Mac, his full name is George McHale, but in this, Indy knows him as Mac, and Mac knows him as Jonesy, right? Broadbent, and then, and these are the main actors, and then of course you have Karen Allen, who returned as Marion, and then Kate Blanchett, who plays Colonel Doctor Spalko, and she's a bad, bad woman. They had to have a villainess in this film. So I thought, okay, that's interesting. And we find out she's from eastern Ukraine, so she's Russian. So we find out that uh, Jones and Mac are brought to Area 51 to look for what they describe as a skull, or actually the remains of the UFO that crashed in Roswell, New Mexico back in 1947. And apparently, Indy was there with 20 other people. Blacked out windows. He went to examine the remains. He wasn't allowed to say anything on the threat of treason. But here they are, and the Russians and Spalko get Indy into the warehouse. And if everybody recognizes the warehouse, yes, it's the same one that the Ark of the Covenant was eventually brought into in the earlier Raiders movie. So, yeah, if you recognize it now, you know where the Ark ended up at. Spoiler. Okay, so so anyway, Indy says, "Look, you guys need to have metal, right? You need to have metal to be thrown somewhere so that it can lead you to where the box has the remains in it. It's magnetized, it's metallic. So he gets some gunshot uh, shells. He gets some other uh, gunpowder, that sort of thing. Throws it all together, and they eventually find the container, the box, which has the remains in it. They pull it out, and ironically enough, and it's not revealed till a few minutes later, but the Ark of the Covenant box is next to it or close to it in the same areas where this remains were found, which I thought was also quite ironic. So they open it up and they find the remains. And of course, what they're looking for is a crystal skull. But they don't say that initially. They said that they're looking for something that was in the remains that they were looking for, and they found it. They found the skull, and Spalco got it. So they're trying to get away with it. Well, then of course, Indy, creates his own trouble and starts to uh, try to get at it. But then he finds out that Mac is a double agent, and he had been with them all these different missions and everything, the Pacific and the Atlantic and everything. And all this time, he didn't know that Mac would betray him, and he did, because he lost the cards badly and everything else. So basically, now he's really screwed because he finds out his best friend is a Russian spy for them. So he goes back and tries to create some more havoc, some more mayhem. Uh, he somehow manages to get out of the base with the uh, bad guy. His name is Igor Zhivankine. He's the actor that plays the head Russian man that beats up or hits Indy in the beginning and fights him until they get out to the desert and they go on this experimental sled, rocket sled, and they end up at the end and he pushes him off and then he goes to hide. And then Indy is forced to go into hiding, so he goes to what he thinks is a town. Well, unfortunately, this is the town that's to be destroyed by an atomic bomb test, a blast. And he doesn't know that at first. But he gets there and they're playing on the TV Howdy Doody, the Howdy Doody show and Howdy Doody time. And, I'm sure they had to get permission of the highest level to get that out. And they're playing that on the TV. Let's take my glass off again. So they're playing that on the TV, and then of course he hears the siren. He says that can't be good, and then he hears a warning. And he says that definitely can't be good. So he goes and runs into the kitchen, and then he remembers now. Wait, if they're gonna drop a bomb, I can get into this lead-lined refrigerator. Last minute, he thinks of this, and he gets in there, throws everything out. About 2 seconds left before they're gonna drop. He gets in. All of a sudden, the bomb drops, and boom, and wipes out the town, and pushes his refrigerator a number of yards until it crashes in the desert. And of course, Indy gets up and out of the refrigerator, and he walks over on this hill rise and sees, the after effects of the bomb and the atomic bomb and the drop and everything, and he's in shock. And then, of course, he goes back to the base later on, and they had to strip him down, completely. You don't see any of his naked parts. You just see, a part up to his waist, I guess, or to his waist or something. And they're cleaning him off and everything. And they have to clean off all the radiation, to avoid radiation poisoning and all this. And then after he's changed, he's sitting there, and I recognized right away that these guys, they did say they were from the FBI, from the Bureau, but they looked like Men in Black, didn't they? When you first saw them? And you thought, okay, the only thing missing is their glasses, and they had the black suits on and everything else. And so, after he, his friend Bob, who's like head general, comes and gets him out of that little messy pickle. he takes him aside, tells him, yes, Spalko is Stalin's right hand girl, and she's into psychic research, and that's why she broke into a highly classified military facility and grabbed something out from the Roswell remains, and so now she has it in her possession. And so uh, after that discussion, Indy goes back to the school where he teaches and finds out from his dean, played by Jim Broadbent. He finds out that FBI have raided his little home. They've gone through his files. They've gone through everything, and they're trying to you know find out where the skull is, because I guess what happened, or no, I'm sorry, what did happen? Why am I guessing? I don't know. I guess. Why am I doing that? What had happened before was that John Hurt, who played Oxley, his former professor, uh, that worked with him at the University of Chicago, had gone insane, and he had taken the crystal skull and hid it somewhere. And so they, what they did was they captured Marion, and eventually, after they found Oxley and captured him, took him in. And then what happened was, uh, we don't know this till later, but this guy named Mutt Williams comes out of nowhere, riding a motorcycle. He tells, Professor Jones, "Hey, I need you. Oxley is in trouble. He used to be with you. Blah blah blah." And he says, "Okay." So they go to a diner and they're talking, and all of a sudden there's two people that are waiting there over at the diner front, and that they're watching them. And Mutt hands him a letter, which says it's from his mother, and says, blah blah blah. We got, arrested. She got captured. Gonna kill her if she doesn't tell them where this thing is, and other stuff. And all of a sudden, the two guys come over, and they win the letter, and we find out they're KGB, not FBI, and they have guns. And of course, Indy tells Mutt, "You just bought a knife to a gunfight," because all he has is a switchblade knife on him. And of course, Mutt is played by Shia LaBeouf, who did the Transformers films and so forth earlier on. So, and this movie was 2008. So, like I said, 19 years have passed since the last movie. So now uh, he goes to his home and looks at all the wreckage and everything. And he he got this thing that was a note, in the note, that was sent to Mutt, which Mutt was able to hide from the KGB after a big chase and wreckage and everything at the school. He goes and looks at the notes and realizes that Oxley has printed uh, all of this in Koyama, which they call a dead language, which is closer to the Quechuan dialect, and could be spoken to in Mayan also. And since Indy knows all these languages and studies them and everything as an archaeologist, he would know how to speak it. So he's comparing it to Mayan and finds out what it means. And then so the two of them, Mutt and Indy, travel to Nazca, Peru, where they see, before they land, the Nazca lines, which they say can only be seen by the gods. They're not much on the ground, but when you look at them from a sky view, and that's supposed to address the aliens from above. He points straight up and says that. So, of course, Mutt is still in, you know, Mutt is supposed to be skeptical. Indy doesn't really want to believe it for an instant, but he realizes he needs to find Oxley and find Marion, and find where they are, and try to save them and do whatever he can. So they go, and they're at this old village which has a uh, place that Oxley was arrested because he came into town gibbering, you know, uh, talking and arguing like a madman, gibberish and everything. So they put him in this little cell that the Sisters of Mercy, because he runs across the sister. They're nuns that take care of the prisoners there. And so he finds out from the nuns that Oxley was taken by guys with guns and taken away. And he says, okay, so he knows that they're both in trouble, and so he needs to find out where Francisco Orellana's tomb is. And he was a conquistador who actually tried to find the lost city of gold, El Diablo, back in the 1540s, and actually um, they never saw him again. They didn't know what happened to him. And Indy's indicated to Mutt as much that he tried to go find it himself and ended up with typhus. So he almost died from that. So he couldn't go in there himself and find it. And so what they did was, they went and found Francisco's grave, and then they were able to actually go underneath the grave because it had already been robbed. Some people had already made it there and tried to find, but couldn't. And so they go there and they eventually find the crystal skull. And so they're like, okay, so we need to get this to Oxley and Marion, to save their lives. And so what they do is they get out, into the Amazon, and they get there, uh, and eventually they find Oxley, and they're happy to see him or whatever. And then, uh, you know, Mutt had told Indy previously that his mom's name was Mary, but he didn't get full name. So Indy had no idea, right, that Marion was still alive. All he knew was that Mutt's mom was alive, but could be killed, and that Oxley was with them. So he needed to find the Russians and and Spalko and get to them, and he does, but he gets captured uh, after trying to find them, and he has the skull. And then what happens is Spalko says, "Well, maybe we can use a more sensitive way of getting you to talk." Because she tried with Indy a few times, he refused, wouldn't say anything. And of course, Oxley's off his rocker, so he's not going to be much help. Excuse me. And then, of course, Marion Ravenwood walks out of the tent, and so shocked Indy, first of all, that she's still alive, and secondly, that Mutt is her son. and, and I don't know if he got the inkling eventually that these two have to be linked to him in some way, that he might be the dad or something. I don't know if he even got that he was even aware of that until, but I mean, he was still in shock. He didn't know what was going on. So then eventually Mutt causes some commotion. He creates a diversion. They get out of the camp. They're running through the Amazon, the four of them. And eventually they come across quicksand. But even though Indy, I think, tries to identify it as something else, but eventually they know it's quicksand. And so then what happens is Marion and Indy are sinking, and they tell Oxley, help, help, help. And so he goes for help. So then uh, Mutt grabs a huge snake, which is non poisonous, by the way. It looks like um, one of those constrictors, boas probably. And he grabs it and throws it to Marion and gets her out. And then he throws the snake to Indy and says, come on. And of course, Indy's still freaked out about snakes. So he doesn't want to grab it. He says, call it something else. Call it something else. Well, what do you want me to call it? He says, call it. It says, grab the rope. And then both Marion, that makes me laugh so much. Marion and Emma together say, grab the rope. So, yeah, it still makes me laugh. So then he grabs the rope snake and gets out of the quicksand. And then, of course, Ox arrives with help, the Russians. So then they proceed to the next spot that Oxley mentioned uh, later on. And so they go deeper into the Amazon, uh, where Oxley said tears and it drops, and there's three times it drops and so forth. And they get to uh, they're getting close, and all of a sudden, uh, you know, they jump each other, and there's a fight on board these vehicles. And what you see is this one big huge truck that's cutting through the forest canopy, with these huge cutters and everything. Howdy! Hello, Dead Man Walking 55. We're just about to get to the fifth movie, Dial of Destiny. We're going to talk about it just for a little bit. But we're finishing up here, giving my synopsis real quick of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and then I'll give a grade on it. So, and if John DeMarco, my friend, is still here, he can help you too. Patchy, I'm on fire! Fire, 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 pants on fire. No, there's actually. Oh well, Resolute Germ. There's gonna be a total of five at the end of Dial of Destiny. Oh, one to stop by. Gotta run. Oh, okay, Dad man. Oh well, I appreciate you coming in. Thank you for representing my chat. I really do appreciate it. Honestly, I really do. Thank you. Um. Okay. So anyway, just to finish up here real quick on the fourth one here. So that basically after they've had a fight, chasing uh, Mutt and Spalko are fencing. They're fighting and stuff. Indy had told Mutt before he found out that he was his actual biological son. That uh, Mutt had told him he fixes motorcycles for a living. He says, "Well, do what you want to do. If you enjoy it." He failed a lot of schools. He didn't want to go through schools and stuff. He wanted to do more life experience instead of books at college and things like that. So, until Indy finds out, uh, he accepts what Mutt wants to do. But then when he finds out, he says, "Why didn't you finish school?" you know. So anyway, uh, so okay, Resolute. I don't care what the studio tries to say. There are only three indie movies. Well, that makes sense, Resolute. And I think a lot of us probably agree with you that in the fact that there's only a trilogy. But I don't know, due to greed, or like I said, uh, Ford and Spielberg and Lucas had to agree. If they weren't going to do a fourth one, they wouldn't do it. And it took them a long time. Like I said, this came out 19 years later in 2008. That's a long time between movies, for Last Crusade and this one. So, you know, maybe it was to make money. I don't, maybe that's ultimately what it was for. I mean, it wasn't a bad movie. I'll tell you my review real quick in it. It wasn't that bad, but yeah, I agree. If you want to go with the first three movies, more power to you. And I agree with you in a lot of points about that. But that being said, I mean, each of these four films each had something to offer, and as I said too, it's amazing that I can actually find something new each time I watch each of these films. That pops out without even you know realizing that I didn't see it before. Then I see something that looks different. I was, oh wow, that's cool. So I saw that, and I was glad about that, just seeing that. But I appreciate you mentioning what you said about that. That's true. Hi Jay, how you doing? Yeah, we're gonna, since you guys are starting to pop in, I'm gonna let this last for about another 30, 40 minutes. How's that? So you guys can pop in, give your quick opinions of what you feel. Maybe, like I said, I'm not going to give an actual poll down, but what I'm going to ask each of you, who's ever in the chat, What's your favorite Indiana Jones movie, and what grade did you give it? What was your final grade, your review? So, like I said, without revealing the end spoiler of this movie, what progresses is the big guy, like I said, played by Igor Shivinkin, the head Russian guy. He gets killed by a bunch of what they call sofu or saifu, which are giant red ants. Hello, Professor. Ever thought about a panel discussion? Yes, I have, Professor. I'm sorry. Um, I don't have StreamYard set up yet. I know they said it's free. So what I plan on doing is on my next live stream, I hope to have a panel discussion about it. But I like your comments in here in the chat. I like reading. Like I said, I try to read everybody's here. Um, yeah, Jay. You've never seen any of the Indiana Jones movies? That's okay. That's okay, Jay. Um, a lot of people haven't seen these movies. For some, they're a hidden treasure. For others, they wouldn't even watch the first one. The Raiders movie. But that's your choice. Uh, Turning off slow mode would be a good start. Okay. Hold on a sec. Okay, I'm turning it off now. It's off. Okay, I turned off slow mode. Okay. Professor says I'm still at work, and Jay, I challenge you to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. There you go, Professor. Tell him. Yes, I challenge you too, Jay, to see the first one. Okay, came out in 1981. It's a great movie. I know it's 42 years old. I know what you're gonna say, you know, but believe me, you'll want to see it. It's worth it. It really is. Okay, so now that we got slow mo turned on, uh, I apologize for all this time. See, I'm still learning. I'm still learning these things. Good. Now we don't have to wait a minute to comment. Sorry about that. When it comes out on YouTube, free, I will. Hello, Jerm. It's good to see you, Professor. And John, I hope you're still here too. And Jay, it's really good to see you as well. Okay, so without giving too much more away, in uh, Kingdom of Crystal Skull, suffice it to say that after they go through all these crazy adventures, after the Fire Ants kill Igor character, and then Spalco and a few of the soldiers are still left. They go through uh, three different waterfalls and a cave. They face the Uga, which is spelled Ugha. There are people that were conscripted by the aliens to protect the lost city of gold, El Diablo, and all that. They get through them by Oxley showing off the skull, which we find out is eventually the 13th skull of 13 aliens, 12 others who all have their skulls, but this is the missing skull. They're missing a crewmate that needs to have the skull returned. That's what the skull itself told Indiana Jones was return, return. That's what they told Oxley as well, because eventually Oxley is on the same wavelength now as Indy is. So they turned this skull. Uh, there's Brandy. Yeah, I'm still here, but I don't have much to contribute regarding Crystal Skull. That's okay, John. I just want you to give your honest opinion, and after I finish this, before I even go into Dial of Destiny, I just want you to give me your honest opinion and a grade on it. You know mine already on the other three. So, okay, so without revealing the spoiler and the end of this, because I think I probably should stop where I'm saying right now, because it gets really exciting towards the end for most of you that haven't seen it. But uh, what I'd like to do now is, since I have Jay and Resolute Germ and John and Professor Rainy Specs and whoever else is in the chat with me at this moment. I'd like to go ahead and give me your honest opinion on any of the four films. And, oh, and by the way, so my review was it was exciting in parts, it was kind of dull in other parts. Um, I gave it a B minus. That was my grade for the fourth one. And God, I'm hoping that the fifth one's going to be better. I really do hope so. Beats it hands down, Drew. Yeah, yeah. Crystal Skull better than Temple of Doom. Yeah. Now, Professor, you liked it a lot more. Me, like I said, I liked it in parts. It was fun, uh, but I don't know. It some of the action kind of slowed down in parts, and I really liked the action to be consistent with the dialogue and the events and things that go on. So it was between a B and a B minus for me. I'll leave it at that much. Okay, John says what I will say is that I think The Mummy with Brendan Fraser was better than Crystal or Temple of Doom. I agree with you actually, to some extent, John. I do. Yeah, that's ironic. I was trying to think of something similar to an adventure story, and then you just reminded me about Fraser and the Mummy movies you did. Can we say that the Mummy with Fraser was much better than the reboot of the Mummy with Tom Cruise? Can we say that? Leaving work now. Now, Professor, be safe. Don't text until you get home. Okay? I will be here for another 40 to 45 minutes. So take your time, get home, and then I'd love to hear your reviews. Okay? Let me know. Okay? Be safe, please. Okay? Don't get into an accident. Okay. So, we'll recap. So, uh, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I gave it an A minus. I thought it was a wonderful film. It has all the action, the drama, comedy, everything you want in it. I gave Temple of Doom a solid B. I could probably even give it a C because it was just so dark. And it kind of, well, you know how um, most movies nowadays, and this applies. I'm not just saying to this trilogy, obviously, or to what will soon be five movies, but it also applies to Star Wars, Star Trek, uh, to some extent, the DC universe and the Marvel universe, but especially with Star Wars and Star Trek. It seemed like the odd numbered movies usually were better, and the even numbered movies were the worst. I think it's easy to say that pretty good and actually very good in most parts. And then the fourth one was just like a meh. And most of you, I hope, also agree in that way. Let's make sure we're all caught up here. So it beats it hands down, Germ, not by a long shot, Professor. Professor did say Crystal Skull was better than Temple of Doom. Uh, right. Professor says there are only three Indiana Jones films: Raiders, Last Crusade, and Crystal Skull. John said, I never saw the one with Tom Cruise, but I heard it was terrible. It is terrible. Don't ever buy it. Don't ever rent it. It's terrible. I had to see it. We had to see it. Sorry. My wife and I had to see it, unfortunately. But no, don't get it. Daggone, your library closes late, Professor. Yes. Uh, Jern said that Cruise film doesn't count as a mummy movie. Right. Raiders, okay. Resolute Jern gives it an A minus. He gives Temple a C minus, and Last Crusade an A plus. Cool, Jern. I like your grades. He says there are no other indie movies to be rated. Okay. Well, then you know what? Why don't I say that you officially give Crystal Skull an F, like Gorillas would, an automatic F? Okay. Can we agree on that? Okay. Is anyone getting buffering? Well, I turned off the slow mode, Jay. I hope I'm not affecting it too badly for you. The stream was buffering for a bit. Seems fine now. Oh, thank you, John. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry about that. All right. So yeah, we've got about another four. You know what? We'll go another 45 minutes. So I can hope I catch Brady when he gets home, so he can actually give me a couple of his grades and let me know what he thought. So well, let's just quickly discuss about Indiana Jones 5 and the Dial of Destiny. It's going to be a 2023 movie, but it actually has been uh, in production for about 3 or 4 years, I think, since 2019. And, uh, it'll be well, in this case, it'll be another 15 years later in Indiana Jones' life. Uh, Somebody told me uh, when I read things about it, somebody told me that Marion will be gone. He won't know where his son went after that. So I think Mutt will be gone. We already know that Marcus and his dad have already passed away. They showed that in the Skull movie at the towards the beginning, and we also know Oxley went back to whatever he was going to do, and towards the end of this film, without giving away the ending too much, uh, we find out that Indy does become associate dean of the college officially. So that's where everything is supposed to come up to uh, to a peak when they reach Indy 5 at the beginning. The only two actors that I know are, or three, I'm sorry, now I remember. There are three actors in it. Indiana Jones Returns, Harrison Ford. You have Mads Mikkelsen, who plays the villain in this film, and Sala comes back. They did show Sala, John Rhys Davies, so he is in it too. Those are the only three I know of. I don't remember. Well, I haven't read the name of the actress that plays in it. That's supposed to replace Marion. I don't. Karen Allen. I don't know who she is. So if somebody knows her name, let me know. Um, let's see. You've had some buffering on and off, but but it. Oh, okay. But Resolute said it's not an issue. As far as the buff goes, he went to rehab, jail, and then it got worse. Yeah, Shia LaBeouf. Yes, yes. I heard that he couldn't handle Hollywood. Yeah, that was his problem. Bird of Prey. Sorry, 5. Kapla. Welcome to the stream. We're going to be going for another about 40 minutes, Bird. So you're in time enough. No, it's not over yet. I'm going to stay here another 40 minutes and talk about it. And then it'll be over. So you have time to give your quick review of Julie up to this point and your grades. Give us your grades. That'll be important. I would love to hear from you. Yeah, it's not over yet, though. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's not over yet. Okay, so uh, now when I was doing research for this stream, I had only seen about two trailers uh, for Dial of Destiny. I don't believe I've seen the final trailer yet, or if it is out there, I haven't seen it. Yeah, there's no Crystal Skull. Bird, don't even humor the idea. Oh, come on, Germ. Come on. Well, I guess just lucky I finished. I, that's funny. That is funny. Um, Hungry for UFO to never suffer a reboot. Hiya, Mikey. Hey, buddy. What's up? We can go longer if you guys want to. However long we want to go. A lot of you are popping in, and I appreciate it. I really do. Uh, I so not acknowledge Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Do not. Oh, okay. That's fine. But no, that's fine, Bird. I acknowledge your comment on that. I do. Crystal Skull should have been an afterthought. I agree. That's why I gave it my lowest score because my lowest grade. I gave it like a B minus to a C because honestly, it just I mean, come on, aliens. I mean, like yeah, but the aliens were to be fair, the aliens were George Lucas's idea, not Steven Spielberg's. Steven didn't even want to do aliens. He had already done Close Encounters of the Third Kind and and ET, the extraterrestrial. I mean, he didn't even want to deal with alien issues anymore. I'll acknowledge it more than what seems to be coming our way. That trailer for the new one, oh yeah, doesn't look too promising, does it? Hungry, yeah. That the trailers. It depends on which one you're saying, because like I said, I've only seen two. There was a teaser trailer, and then there was the regular one, and I don't know if they've done a third and final trailer for it yet. But I think, but honey, we did see it in the movie theater, right? The trailer for Indy.
John, you mean?
Yeah,
Hold on a second. Shut it off.
this is just for a second, guys. So we did see the final trailer basically for Indy 5, right?
Yes.
We did. Okay. Thank you, honey. I just had to ask your opinion for a minute. Okay, so that's why she's so great, my wife back here. So anyway, yes, we did see the final trailer. I stand corrected. We have seen all three. Yeah. So like I said, I don't know which one you're referring to, Hungry. It could be the teaser, could be the second one, or the one they're showing currently now in theaters before the movie comes up. So no, but I respect your opinion. I do on your comment. I respect everybody's opinions in the chat. Everyone. That's why chats are made like this. This is great. I love it. So, um, is it Indy 5 or is it Phoebe 1? I saw the teaser. Okay. Yeah, Phoebe is the one that helps him this time, right? Instead of Marion, it's Phoebe, is her name, the character. Yeah, I don't know. Uh, they were calling it Indy 5 for the teaser. And I don't believe they really went into Dial of Destiny part. They did when they did the second trailer, and then when my wife and I went to see a movie recently, we saw the final trailer, and they call it Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So that is now its official title. It's been that way for, I believe, the last 3 or 4 months. Yes, it's March. So, if that answers your question, I don't know about Phoebe, being called Phoebe 1. Maybe she's supposed to take up the mantle. I don't know. I've heard terrible rumors without going too much into them. I've heard, uh, well, I hate to say it, I've heard that he might die at the end of this one. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know for sure. I don't know the whole plot, so I'm not aware of what really is going to happen. It's supposed to cover, so if I'm if I'm saying this right, uh, we had 1957 Nevada he was in before. So 15 years later, I'm supposed to believe it's one of the last of the Apollo moon landings, or it's probably going to go like 12 years later to where it's supposed to be Apollo 13, where they're going to first land on the moon. Something like that. Ford does love to have his characters die. Yes, Han Solo meets his death. Did I tell you that story? Did I tell you that when or there was a bunch of us that were waiting in line? Well, this was before we went to go wait in line for the seventh Star Wars movie. The oh yeah, Star Wars 7, whatever. Uh, but in that one, there were people that had been waiting in line for up to 24 hours. Okay, and this one guy from uh, Northern California. He's a 19-year-old. Okay, he walks out of the film. He had just seen it, and he says, "Guess what?" He says, "Guess what? Han Solo dies." And you should have seen the people that rushed him and almost beat him to death. And the worst part was the cops who were standing around for extra security and security guards didn't do a thing. They didn't. They condoned it, but they didn't do a single thing. This guy ended up in the hospital for a couple weeks because he revealed the ending or towards the ending about Han Solo. That was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. Yeah, crazy. Um, by the way, Haya, Resolute Germ, and Bird of Prey 5. Also, I'm not sure I can buy into time bouncing goose steppers outside of the Bfilm hunt. on Tubi, right? And Hungry says that's a horrible thing to happen to a poor dumb kid. It was. It was. I only learned of the story after my wife and I went to see it. Uh, that seventh Star Wars movie. It was tragic. I was like, wow. Um, I can't believe, and I mean these were not just regular citizens that were waiting for the film, but I mean these were some people that were dressed up like stormtroopers and Jawas and all that shit. Excuse my language. Everything that they had, on that they were going to wear. It was sort of like a Comic Con meets movie premiere and all that stuff. And these people just rushed him and decked him and the way that the news story described it was just it was a madhouse. It was mayhem. They just went on top of this kid and beat him up severely. Like a lot of people waited hours just to watch the film to find out what would happen. And they said no spoilers, right? They said to the first group that went in California when they were going to show it in the area they were in the Bay Area there, they said, don't spoil it for everyone. Don't tell them everything, that happens when you go see it. So when you come out, don't say a word. And if they ask, just say, yeah, it was a good film, you know? Yes, he learned not to do that again. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. He actually, what I found out about him later on was he decided I'm not going to premieres anymore. He says I'm going to wait till they till they play the film, you know, and then for a week or so, and then I'll go see it, And he made sure he stayed incognito when he went to future films. So, yes, yes, good point, Bird. Good point. Yeah. So, like I said, John Rhys Davies is actually one of my favorite actors. I'll just quickly mention the two that I know of besides Harrison Ford. I think I basically have said everything about Harrison Ford. He's multi talented. He flies his own damn plane. Well, I don't think he does it now since he's in his 80s. Uh, you know, but supposedly this will be his last film, or for what he says. Uh, that's probably why you said Phoebe won, because Phoebe, who's supposed to be his assistant, might move on and do another, you know, indie thing, but they might just call it with Phoebe. So who knows? I don't know what's going to happen with that. But anyway, so talking about John Rhys Davies again, as I said, he's a great actor. I really enjoyed him as Sala in these films. I hope he can pull it off again because I think he actually saved one or two movies for his role. Yeah, he's fab. I dig him in everything. He's like a reserved, erudite brother of Brian Blessed, right? With normal teeth. Totally agree with you, Hungry. I agree with that comment. Yes. And were you surprised I actually pronounced erudite correctly? We like to do that. We're good friends, okay? For people who know my streams and then know their streams, that Hungry's in, and Resolute Germ, and Professor Brainy Specs, and John DeMarco, and Gorillas, and Jay Aldridge. Uh, all the people that have been here tonight, as well as other friends like Anti-Derivative Jill, who I hope shows up too. She said she might not tonight, but she said she'll probably watch the stream, so that's good. I appreciate that. But we're all friends, right? We all have opinions. Uh, we give our true, honest feelings about what we thought of the film or the TV series episodes or things like that, and we get along fine. I mean, we all have something that we agree on, and yes, we're opinion. Like I said, we give our opinions, so we are opinionated. But in the end, we all agree that whatever has happened in the film or the TV show or whatever, uh, we respect what everybody else gives their review and opinion and so forth, and that's the best part. That's why I love everybody that became my friends, became my subscribers. Oh, and by the way, I am only 3 subscribers away from 80. I have 77 subscribers to this channel. So if you find anybody that wants to watch this stream when it's done, excuse me, that anybody wants to watch the stream when it's done, please subscribe. Hit like if you like the stream. And if you want to download it, hit save and save it under whatever playlist you decide to save it under. And I appreciate that. So, like I said, 3-way. uh, but I do want to also mention, and I've said it before to my friends, that I don't care about the monetization of this channel because I haven't even reached that many. That I don't believe I'm going to reach up to 1,000 subscribers anytime soon. And I know that YouTube has this option of, if you want to monetize your channel and make money from it, whatever. I'm not into that. What I'm really into is the camaraderie, the friendships I've acquired through YouTube and through different streams. And I appreciate it if you do subscribe. It helps me. I'm not going to say it helps the channel. It just helps me, and I appreciate that. What maybe it does help the channel. Some people have said that before, and I said, well, that's fine. If it helps the channel, great. That's awesome. But I mean, for me, I'm a very humble person, or at least I think I'm humble enough. And you subscribe, that's wonderful. If you don't, that's fine too. That's your choice. I leave that up to you. It's totally your choice. Uh, Laugh out loud, man. No, you are my Scrabble bro. Vocab forever. Yes, I am a spell checker freak show. That's what my wife Suzanne calls me. Spell checker freak show, and it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. I gave a like and yay for camaraderie. Thank you, Hungry. And you spelled it right. Great job. Great job for Hungry. Jay says, I will watch Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark tonight and tell you uh, I liked it or unliked the movie Sunday on Jump Nerdy. Thank you, Jay. Yes, please tell me. Yeah, let me know what you think. Uh, I'm not humble or hubble. I'm an arrogant snob or arrogant SOB. Is that what I'm interpreting that as, Resolute Term? No, that's okay, buddy. You're still a friend to me, and I'm a friend to you, and I still appreciate what you do for Gorillas and his chats and your own channel. I respect it. I've actually watched a few of your things on there, your videos and stuff. I think that's cool. And I've tried to watch videos on everyone's channels. Bird of Prey, of course, and Kapla, and Jay, and Hungry, and Brainy Specs, of course, and John DeMarco. So I really appreciate those guys. They really actually it was John DeMarco that really got me started to uh, learn about these chats and live streams and to be respectful. And now Professor Brain has given me an idea to make my next stream a panel discussion. So yes, I plan on doing that soon. Maybe not. Well, I'm going to say not immediately, but I'm going to say within the next 3 weeks. Would that make sense? It will be within the next 3 weeks. I will try to look into StreamYard, try to get that set up for myself, and then when we have the next live chat. Oh, and now I know not to leave slow mode on. No, it has to be totally off. I remember. So, yeah, I won't put that on. And I did get live chat and live replay. So you'll be able to get live chat as it happens. Uh, Gorillas, if he's listening or watching. Um, so that won't be an issue anymore. And I'm sorry about the buffering. Like I said, I live in Canada, so when it tries to reach other areas, it's the server. We did try to get as much. We tried to get as much power and stuff to it as we could. So I'm sorry if it goes out every little bit once in a while. But I am trying to work on that. I'm gonna take my hat off here too. It's getting a little sweaty. There we go. Oh, and I did want to mention one last thing, and I did mention it at the beginning too. I showed it. This is the DVD. Now you can use this because for all three films, for the first three films, because there's a separate special features on Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. This one will cover all three movies in the trilogy, the first three, with all their special effects, practical, visual, no CGI included anywhere. Stunts, goofs, uh, what you would call the blooper reels, things like that. It's all in here. Bonus material. So when you get the first three, make sure this is included with those three films. Okay, so that you have a repository of information right here, so that you have a library that tells you how they were made, where the idea for Indiana Jones first came up from, how Spielberg and Lucas first got together. All of that is in this thing, bonus material. So make sure you get the. Then they come as a 4 pack, like I said. You get the three films and you get this, which is included as a 4 pack. And I know that Walmart was still selling them, so uh, either Walmart or one of those. If you can go to a secondhand store which has DVDs and stuff, this would be there. So make sure you get that. Okay, that's to make sure I covered the bases. Memory, no worries, buddy. Oh, thank you, Jay. Okay, now Hungry, I want to make sure I'm still caught up. He says, I always got top 3% in spelling all my life. It's just that typographical errors which ruined my rep. LOL. Okay. Yeah, Hungry, we're nerds. Okay, plain and simple, we're nerds. That's our fault. No, it's not. It makes us unique and special. So don't ever apologize for being a nerd. I know you might have just heard me say it, but don't. It's better to be a nerd than be dumb. Okay, overall. um, as for the topic, I adored the unfolding uh, tale aspect of the first rated film and the disciplined cinematography. No indulgence in it. No filler or padding. And I appreciate that, Jay. No worries. Thank you for saying that for me. Yes, Hungry it brings up a great point. Uh, you didn't have to worry. What it was is when the first three films came out, you did get a sense that you were part of those films. Okay, you could put yourself at any time. I'm not just saying the beginning. I'm saying at any time in the film, you could put yourself into Indiana Jones' shoes, right? And you ask yourself, well, what should I do in this situation, right? That's exactly how I felt when I first saw these films myself. I was like, wow, what would I do, in his situation? Um, how would I get out of this problem? Whatever happened. I was asking myself that all the time, and I thought, wow, okay. So he came up with really unorthodox ideas and solutions, but he did get out of it, right? I mean, there's plenty of times he could have just been shot in the head and said, "That's it, you're gone," right? So, yeah, that was cool. Nemesis of Eden, hello. Thank you for coming to the chat. I'm just at work, popping in to say hi. I hope you're doing well, Mikey. Thank you, Nemesis. I appreciate your endorsement and your entrance. Thank you for coming to see me. I appreciate it. I really do. Um, Resolute Germ, well, I'm going to bed. Good night, all. Resolute Germ, thank you so much again for coming in and be part of the stream. And I will see you in future streams, I hope, okay? Have a great night. Have good dreams too, okay? God bless you, man. Thank you. Thank you, my brother. Okay, so yeah, we're still going. We got a few more minutes. Um, I'm gonna try to stretch it. I'm gonna try to stretch it to at least 250. If we do get a few more people, I'll try to stay here as much as possible until at least three. But I'm trying not to go more than 3 hours at the most. So we'll see how it progresses over time. Anyway, getting back to the last thought I had. Yeah. So I said to myself, do I put myself how do I put myself in Indy's boots, and what do I do? And every situation was unique because, first of all, when you're in Raiders, you assumed he's already established. He's gone through a lot of adventures. He's done a lot of things, so he's not a newcomer at this at all. No newbie at all. In what he does, archaeology and stuff. And he's a teacher on top of it. That's great. He's a professor, so he's knowledgeable. He's going to be able to figure out things for himself. Hungry says, "Hiya, Nemesis of Eden." And good night, Resolute Germ from Hungry. Thank you, Hungry. Appreciate that. So, like I said, so he's a professor, he's an archaeologist. Now, back in the early, I want to say this real quick, back in the early 20s or 30s or 40s, archaeologists did get a bad stereotype. They were considered grave robbers. Now, I don't know what they did, and it may be true. In fact, it probably was in the case of what Howard Carter did back, in Egypt with Tutankhamun and his, King Tut and his discovery and everything else, and the curse and so on. Yes, they could be. I mean, they did. Let's bear in mind too a little bit of back in Mexico, right, in Central and in Central America, in the Yucatan especially. There was a lot of discoveries made, but they were made by grave robbers who said that they were uh, neophyte archaeologists, but they were looking for gold, right? They were looking for El Diablo. They were looking for the City of Gold, whatever was there. And they ended up finding, uh, Mayan temple, the mounds and, the Mayans, artifacts, Aztecs, uh, you know, all the different tribes, everything, the Yucatan tribes, and all of their different types of artifacts and treasures and so forth. And yes, they could be considered robbers to some extent. But I think that in this case, uh, Indiana Jones didn't want to be, or Professor Jones didn't want to be considered a robber of sort. He just wanted to be considered as a noted and dedicated archaeologist. He didn't sell me on that. Okay. In any of the films, he didn't sell me at all of that. But that's cool because he had a lot of fun adventures. So, and there's Nemesis. Hey, Hungry. Jay says my favorite Harrison Ford movie is regarding Henry. Yes. Yeah, that's a great movie. Was that the one where he plays Henry that has a deficiency, I guess, of the brain or something like that? If I recall correctly, you'll have to remind me what the main plot of that was, uh, Jay. But yeah, I do remember that movie. The other great thing about Raiders is that since we saw what happened regarding the metaphysical moments, as real spirits, lower order angels being released, we didn't suffer the Scooby Doo fake out. Hungry, I love you, man. Yes, absolutely agree with that assessment, that comment. Yes, I do. Yeah, it's great because um, the knowledge was, according to the Bible, the knowledge was is that the Ark of the Covenant was supposed to be, uh, it was a relic, right? That was created according to God's instructions to Moses. And then when Moses brought down uh, the tablets, the two tablets of the Ten Commandments from Mount Horeb, he saw that the Israelites or the Hebrews at that time weren't obeying what Moses was laying down according to God's will, and they were celebrating a pagan, uh, you know, uh, shape of a goat on top of gold or something like that. So then what he did is he threw the commandments, according to the Bible, he threw the commandments at the pagan symbol, the pagan item they were carrying, and it got smashed. So then after that was destroyed, God had re-instructed Moses, build this ark, and in that ark of the covenant put the two, restore uh, Ten Commandments and put them inside. So, and that was the biblical text on it. And so people thought there has to be an Ark of the Covenant out there somewhere. Because if the Bible mentions it, it must be true, right? Or they interpret it that way. So, same thing with the Holy Grail, the cup that, like I said, of Jesus Christ, which he used to celebrate his body and his blood at the Last Supper, and then it was used to catch his blood from the Roman soldier that had pierced his side when he was or when he was, you know, crucified on the cross. That was significant importance of that cup. And like I said, they called it the Holy Grail. The Crusades had looked for it. Everybody was looking for it. The rumor now is that it's supposedly in a church in the what they call, this country is supposed to be called the Cradle of Humanity, and it's Ethiopia, right? It was supposedly where everything started, where Eden was and everything, and Garden of Eden and so forth. And so they supposedly have the cup there, or maybe the Ark is there. You don't know. You know, one of those items. Uh, of Sorry for typos. No problem. Jay says he gets shot and has memory loss and has difficulties returning to his life. Yeah, that's cool that you let me know that. Yeah, so uh, let me ask you guys a question. What do you think of the Marion dynamic? Okay, Marion Ravenwood. Like, we meet her in Raiders. We don't see her again in Temple of Doom because technically that's considered a prequel. And then you see her again in last. Oh no, you don't see her. I'm sorry, you don't see her in Last Crusade, but you do see her in Crystal Skull. So what do you think of that dynamic between the two of them? Hungry says hi, Jay Aldrich. He says howdy. Yeah, so let me know what you guys think. Uh, you know, if you want to comment about that, I'll read what you say about the regarding the Indian Aryan dynamic. Um, we're also assuming if you've all seen the end of Crystal Skull, okay, I'll say a little bit of what they get married. Okay, so but back when before Raiders came, he hadn't seen Marion in almost 10 years, and at the time she was 15 or something like that, and he was a younger man then, and he broke her heart, and her father Abner Ravenwood became estranged from India. That was before Raiders really got started. I adored the spunky, feisty Marion. Was grrr when she wasn't in the next two films. I was there too, hungry with you, believe me. Was thrilled when she came back in Skull, and was thrilled at her and Indy being an action team. Yes, yes, You're right. They could. They were the only two people that could put up with each other, right? Uh, because there was a line in Crystal Skull where she said, "I bet you would been with other women before." Because remember, she married this guy who also had the last name of Williams, and it was somebody that Indy had introduced her to. But then when Indy disappeared all that time, because he was afraid of getting married, he was scared, got cold feet, and so Marion ends up having his child, you know, and telling some lies, little fibs, white lies, okay? Not outright lying, but just kind of giving a white lie to her son, letting her know, your father was a RAF pilot and all this other stuff, and he died, so Mutt was living with that lie, for a while. Yeah, the marriage scene made my eyes a bit wet. Yeah, I was happy for them, hungry. Which is why I question about Dial of Destiny. Where did she go? What happened to her? Did she die? Did she divorce him? It's never implied. Especially, you don't even see mention of her, I think, in any of the trailers. I don't think we saw her in that final trailer. So there was no mention of her at all. And you never even heard about what happened to his son. But, you know, you don't even know what happened to him. So I'm a little wary. That's like I said, I'm a little wary about where this movie's going to lead to. Where it dials to. So, yeah, Marion and Indy had excellent action filming in Skulls and fab comedic repartee timing. Yeah, well, Marion, I'll tell you a cool, quick story. When I found out in the special bonus features of this film of Skull, what happened was is that Karen Allen was in her studio and she got a call, and she didn't know who it was at first, but it was Steven Spielberg. And Steven Spielberg basically asked her, "Can you come back? We're doing another Indiana Jones film, and we want you to be there. I want you to be there again as Marion." And she didn't even have to think twice. She said, "Yeah." She said she wanted to do it. She wanted to be there. And and the first day of filming when she got there, she said it felt like I never left. She said I felt that I knew it was at least 20 years since we did the last, uh, or more than 20 years, I should say, since it was uh 1989. Yeah, so right, uh, when they did or 81. I'm sorry, Raiders, right? So it had been at that point it had been almost 25 years since they last met together, Harrison and Karen. And when Karen first came on the set of Skull, she was like, it was like I never left. She said it was like it was a family. Everybody was there again. We were doing this awesome, Indiana Jones film again for the fourth time, and she wanted to be a part of it. So, uh, I think Marion was erased, sadly. Yes, Hungry. I think you're right. I think you're right, and I believe, like I said, it's only a rumor for now until we actually see the film. But I believe Mutt was erased too, for the same purpose, because they didn't want to continue with their storylines. They had already been panned out. You figured after they got married, after Mutt's thing, he tried to put the hat on. Remember that at the end of Skull, and then of course he tried to put it on to wear it himself, and then Indy comes over, grabs the hat from him, puts it back on his head, and nods to him, and then walks out. That was a great scene. That was cool. So, all right, I think we will go up to about 3. How's that sound? Okay, cool. So, anyway, like I said, so getting back to Dial of Destiny for a moment. Yeah, I have heard from a lot of people that it may not be the best. It may fall into the same crack that Temple of Doom did and Crystal Skull did. That they weren't that great. Most people will probably disagree, and I totally concur with disagreements and agreements on which films they liked. Uh, I believe I gave my fair assessment of what I what I liked about each film, and gave my own grade, and now I'm in high anticipation of this film, and I want to take my wife to see it, for as part of her birthday present. We're gonna go to a nice restaurant, and then we're gonna go see the film. So we're both looking forward to it. Uh, it's hard to believe that Harrison Ford is actually going to be in his early 80s by the time he shows up in this film, in this last film. Uh, let's see, I did mention John Rhys Davies. Oh, and then of course, like I said, Mads Mikkelsen is the villain. So and I saw him in Casino Royale with Daniel Craig as Bond, and I thought he did a great job there as the chief. That was one of the few films I'd seen him in. He's done other ones too. He was in Doctor Strange film from the Marvel universe as a rebel villain in that one that could do the jumps through, and all that stuff. So yeah, so that was yeah. I guess that's it. That's probably all I have to say about Dial of Destiny. I hope that we can check it out. Go see it. And, I also heard that to get a little bit off subject, but the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is still out right now. But we plan to see that at the end of May, and then we're going to give our review on it in Facebook. We have this channel or website on Facebook, which talks about honest reviews of movies and stuff. So we do. Um, we try to stick with current movies we see and give an accurate review of it, the description. Casting is that casting can spoil things for me, and Phoebe is just ugh. But Banderas and Michelson are faves of mine, so I might see it. Yeah, that's right. I so thank you for reminding me. The other guy, the other actor that's in it is Antonio Banderas. Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, he. Well, how can you describe Banderas? He's an excellent actor. Uh, he can do great voiceover work, like he did for Shrek as Puss in Boots, and then he had two of his own Puss in Boots movies he did. Uh, his only mistake was when he married Melanie Griffith, and I'm so glad he's divorced from that heathen woman. Uh, I I could say worse things, but I'm just gonna keep it at that. Okay. Um, yeah. So Antonio Banderas, thank you for reminding me. Hungry. He's also in it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Michelson and Banderas being in it. Yeah, that would sound good. But I want to see it a lot for Harrison. I want to see what he does. Because you could tell when it came to Raiders, right? He did most of his stunts, but not everything. And you could tell the ones that stood in for him, and like I said, guys like Vic Armstrong had a stuntman, obviously, do some of the more further away parts. But when you had him close up, that's when Harrison Ford was doing his own stunt at the time. The same thing happened on the other three movies as well. So, but now, like I said, he's in his 80s something, and yeah, it's gonna be difficult. Yes, Banderas started in Spanish indie films, then went on to Desperado by Rodriguez. Desperado is fantastic. Any of you haven't seen it, definitely get it because it's awesome. By Rodriguez, which was fab. So Banderas has subtlety, as Michael said here again in ending too. Yes, that's right. Okay, you're helping me out here. Thank you so much. Yeah, Banderas and Michelson. Be kind of short here. They did some early indie films, independent films, and so they were discovered individually by big name actors and said, "Hey, you could do this. Hey, you could do that." So, and they did a lot of great films after that. Like I said, I saw Nicholson recently in the Doctor Strange film that introduced Benedict Cumberbatch to Doctor Strange. He was good in that. And then, of course, Antonio Banderas. I did get to see parts of his Puss in Boots story, the second one, but we own the first one that he did, his first individual Puss in Boots movie, which is great. Uh, and of course, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, Desperado, and yeah, he's done a lot of great films. Yeah, Banderas began with Pedro Al Almodovar, right, the Spanish director, and then jumped to USA stuff. Yeah, he did. Pedro Almodovar, who is a great actor in himself. Our director, sorry, he's a great director of himself. Did great stuff, and well, we all know about Harrison Ford, so so we really don't need to go into his career because we know that Ford is just amazing. Um, like I said, I call him multi-talented. He can do a lot of different roles. I mean, heck, he even played the president on Air Force One, right? And he got all those people kicked off his airplane. That was great shit. Then he did Mosquito Coast. That was great. Um, but that's just a few movies. Like I said, he did Star Wars. As Han Solo. For 4 films. Uh, he was one of the first to say, "I got a bad feeling about this," but it was actually said in the prequels later, but first. But yeah, but I consider Han or Harrison saying it first officially. When the 4, 5, and 6 came out, we didn't know they were middle until later. So yeah, that's Harrison Ford. He's just that good. He's just that good. Let's see. Well, we've got 7 likes today. Thank you so much, guys. We got 4 people in the chat. Uh, Anybody else want to say some last words? Uh, any last comments before I shut down the stream? 8 likes now. Oh, okay. I didn't reset it yet. Well, thank you, Hungry. 8 likes. Thank you. Thank you. I ended up with 13 likes on the last stream I did, on my 11th stream. So, uh, again, thank you everyone for coming. I really, I appreciate everyone that came, all my friends and stuff. I really appreciate you guys and gals that I'm sure pop in there every once in a while. I really do like that. Love the stream. Thank you, Jay. Thanks, Professor Brainy Specs. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you, John. I think the production design of Raiders was astounding. I felt like I had sand fleas while seeing it as a kid. Yes, hungry. I felt the same. Told you I wouldn't be here much. Professor, it's okay. Please don't apologize. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're listening to this. That means the world to me. Great stuff, Mikey. Quite impressed. 99, folks. Take care, Hungry. It's good to see you. John, Jay, thank you again. Professor Brady Specs, thank you again. I appreciate it. Resolute Germ, I know you're gone, but thank you again, sir, for coming. He was the first in the chat tonight, so I appreciate that from him as well. We saw Gorillas who briefly came in. I hope he listens to the stream afterwards. Jill said she would. Anti-derivative, anti-derivative Jill. That's a hard one to say, the anti-word part. But she did say she was going to watch it. Anytime, buddy. Thank you, Jay. And I appreciate you too, Jay. Thank you. So yeah, well then that's it. I guess we're gonna go ahead and shut down. Uh, Here's my last thoughts for the last couple minutes, last two. Again, I want to thank everyone so much for coming in. Uh, it was fun. I did try to do enough research and commentary on Indiana Jones to get us caught up. Like I said, it's going to be a month and 2 days from now when it premieres on June 19th across everywhere, supposedly. And I really, good night, Professor. Take care of yourself. Please have good dreams and stuff. And God bless you. Thank you. And I'll see you on Jet Nerdy, hopefully on Saturday. And you too, John, as well. And 9 likes. Yay. Thank you, Hungry. Thank you for keeping me updated on that. I appreciate that. Yes, so I hope that you guys enjoyed this stream. And I hope with my brief synopsises of each of the 3 films and supposedly the one that doesn't exist, Crystal Skull, uh, I hope that, and of course, young Indiana Jones, I already explained the adventures that real quick, briefly, and that's it. So, Professor, I didn't, you know, span on it or anything for what you said. Temple of Doom doesn't count or doesn't exist. Okay, that one doesn't exist either. I'll go with that. Okay, that sounds good. That's one of the best ways to end the stream. I agree. Too dark. Uh, but again, oh hey, don't diss my Kate Blanchett in John Purse. Oh yeah, in her pants, right? The Russian Spalko. Yeah, Kate did a good job. I'm not denying that. Kate did a great job. Jay Aldrich says, "Wait." Okay, I'm waiting. Uh, Professor says, "Kingdom of the Crystal Skull does exist." And Hungry said about Kate Blanchett. And Jay Aldrin said, "Wait, okay, I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I just wanted to let you guys know. I hope that you all appreciated the synopses and my grades and all the coverage I gave to Indiana Jones uh, verbatim and all the films and the series and that was on cable and everything else. And I'm waiting for Dial of Destiny like everybody else is with anticipated breath and on our tippy toes. 9 likes. Very cool. Thanks, Hungry. Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay between what you tell me as far as the likes go and what comes up. So I do see the eighth one right now. So it takes just a few seconds when it comes up. Yeah, let's get to 10 likes. I agree. If we can get to 10 likes by the end of the stream, that'd be great. Yes, you know what? I agree with you. I appreciate that. As long as you don't mind hearing me speak for another couple minutes. uh, yeah, 4 movies I can watch of Indiana Jones. I agree, Jay. You enjoy them if you haven't seen them, but make sure you do see Raiders first because it'll give you an idea of the character. Or if you want to go chronological and start with where he basically goes from, you know, where he was uh, in Last Crusade, where River Phoenix played him from 1912 all the way to uh, the Shanghai of 1935, which is how the movie starts. Go to Temple first, see that, then see Raiders, then see uh, Crystal Skull, and then make up or sorry, Last Crusade, and then go make up your mind about Crystal Skull if it was there or not. That's totally up to you. 4 movies I can watch. Yeah, I agree. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, we'll see what happens with Dial of Destiny. I hope it turns out to be a great film. I hope. Um, it'll be hard to tell um, whether or not it's going to succeed. The thing about Last Crusade is that's rather obligatory for Sean Connery fans, since it was the last film where he was truly vigorous. I agree. You know what? And it's interesting you say that, and I'll bring up one quick point. Sir Sean Connery wasn't Sir yet when he did the film, did Last Crusade there in 1989. But eventually, later on, remember he redid. I think it was uh, a couple years before, he redid his last Bond film. Never Say Never Again. Before he did this, and he acknowledged that would be his last Bond film, which it was. But he did it against Eon Productions' instructions. Uh, he didn't. He didn't want to abide by what he thought were guys, up in the studios that were stealing money from him or something. So he wanted to go off and do his own Bond type film. That's why it's not considered officially canon. But over the years lately, and ever since Sir Sean died, they want to consider it as part of the overall collection of Bond films. To be honest, I don't own Never Say Never Again, but I have seen it a few times, and it's probably not a film I'm gonna buy. No, because I've seen it. I mean, it's been out there. LM. Oh, laugh my ass off, Mikey. I'm such a Connery fan and sci-fi nerd. I wanted a 1980s sequel to the Zardoz and Adored Outland. Yes, thank you, fellow nerd. Yes, Zardoz. I thought Zardoz was kind of bizarre. I thought it was. Yes, I know it's supposed to be a sci-fi film. I agree, but it was bizarre. Outland was okay. Well, don't forget he did the dragon's voice in Dragonheart. Okay, that was a great film. I love that film because he was the dragon in that. That was cool because only his voice could do that. To be a dragon. So I enjoyed that. And of course, he was in, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves as King Richard, and and for his brief moment in that, and he also did Robin and Marion, and then, you know, I agreed. Yes. So, uh, as Great Hungry, did you say that I've reached 10 likes already? According to what it says up here, it still says 8. So, like I said, it might not be catching up. My favorite Bond was Roger Moore. Yes, Jay, Deja Vu is watching me. Hold on a second. Honey, would you do me a huge favor and reheat this thing? I wasn't here this whole time.
Okay.
Okay. It's still good. Thank you. My wife made me spaghetti and melted cheese and stuff. And I forgot it was there. So, but it didn't lay there for too long. So I did eat some of it. So she's just gonna reheat it for me, and I'll sign off here in about 4 minutes or so. It says 9 likes on my screen. Okay, cool. Yeah. So just real quick, just to go into James Bond real quick, because if I start on James Bond, I'll be here for 10 hours. I mean, I went to an exhibit and saw James Bond uh, memorabilia and everything for 6 hours. I was in that place. I loved it. I could have just slept there and never left, but I had to leave because it was going to close. And this was in Phoenix, Arizona. They have a science museum downtown, and I went there for the reboot of Star Trek, which Abrams did. And I was with a friend there, and then before that, I went there to see James Bond exhibit. It was fun. I had barbecue ribs for supper. Jay says, "Whoa, cool." Hungry says, "Hooray for Madam Mikey!" Yeah, well, I like calling Suzanne my Mrs. Bond because her relative, related by blood and on her deceased father's side, is Daniel Craig. Her maiden name was Craig. It was Suzanne Craig. So I married my Mrs. Bond. That's my Tracy and I'm James. So, but she's Suzanne. So I call her Bond, Suzanne Bond. How do you like that? Yeah, that's fun. One of my godmothers dated George Lazenby, and I uh, adore Telly Savalas at Blofeld. Yes, yes, I remember that. And well, you want to hear something really funny about that? Do you want to hear something really funny I just learned real quick about that? Well, okay. So you remember Donald Pleasance was in as Blofeld in You Only Live Twice, right? Okay. So when he left, they thought, okay, we could get Pleasance back, but they thought he was just too old to do it. And so they had to find somebody. When Lazenby was Bond, they had to find somebody that would be a worthy villain, but you could say that in the explosion of the island, the volcano thing base where he was at, whatever, you could say it maybe singed his hair, Blofeld's hair, and took it off or whatever. And Telly Savalas, who really wasn't doing much at the time, I think he was doing Broadway maybe, or Shakespeare. They, or could have been doing Kojak. I don't, or no, he did Kojak later. Sorry, before Kojak. He wasn't doing much, but the director called him aside and said, "Would you like to play the lead villain?" Ernst Stavropol. And he had to think about it for what I understand, for like a couple weeks. But then he finally said, "Yeah, sure." Just before they were gonna begin production. So uh, thankfully, Telly agreed. So yeah, I liked his role in that as Blofeld. So okay, let's just say, well, we have about we'll say we'll have about 5 more minutes, and then we'll go. We'll we'll stop because I'm running out of things to say, to be honest. And I do want to eat my wonderful spaghetti that my wife has made for me. So, uh, and I'd like to check out your streams later on this week. Everyone that does their streams, and to see you there, Jay, and everything. And hungry. Suzanne Bond. That's the name in my head now. And Pleasance was transitioning into horror films, which was easier on him physically. Savalas would go into horror stuff too. Yes, thank you for for clarifying that. Thank you, Hungry. Yeah, we're big nerds. I am a James Bond lover. I'm a fanatic. I've probably seen every film more than 10, 20 times, and I love it. Everything there is to know about James Bond. Who knows? He might have given me the idea for do my next live stream, and this time have a panel discussion so that we can talk about James Bond. That would be cool. Now it's time for Mikey to enjoy Suzanne Bond food. Yes, I agree. I should go. So I'll finish this last minute or so just saying again, thanks everyone. I love that you came out today to my stream. I know there weren't a lot of people, but that's cool. I wanted to get all my views out there. Yay, Bond! Thanks, Jay. Yes, okay. So in about, let's say, 2.5 to 3 weeks, probably at least 3 weeks, I'll put more research together, get stuff done on it, and then we'll talk about James Bond. And hopefully by that time, I'll have a StreamYard set up so that you guys can pop in and we'll discuss James Bond. And there's a lot of movies, remember, so about 25, 26 movies. So we want to, I don't know if you want to include the parody film of James Bond, Casino Royale, that they did in 1967 or 8 or 9, I think it was. I don't know if you want to include the non-canon Bond that I just mentioned, Never Say Never Again, that was Connery's last film as Bond. And I don't know if you want to include the Climax TV series that was on early in the early 19 or late 1950s, early 60s, and it had Peter Lorre as Lashif and Barry Nelson as Bond. But if you do want to talk about those subjects, I'll be more than happy to include them in the stream the next time we do James Bond. So just don't inflict octopussy on us, man. Okay. Okay, let me say I'll do my best. I can't promise anything, but I won't say much about it if that makes you happy. I know octopussy's weird. That's okay. But I did love Maud Adams in it. Let's be fair. She was good. She was good. I'm all about 60s Bond. Be too hungry. Yes, Jay. Okay. All right, fellas. Well, I appreciate you staying here with me. I appreciate everyone that came onto the chat, popped their head in, said hello. Uh, you guys are awesome. Thank you again. And Jill, a shout out to you and your channel. If you do go ahead and listen to this, Gorillas, shout out to you and your channel. Uh, check out Jay. Check out Hungry for UFO to Never Suffer a Reboot. Check out Professor Brady's Facts. Check out John DeMarco. Check out Resolute Germ, who works with Gorillas on their streams. And Jay Aldridge, of course, as I said, who's at Jet Nerdy. He's one of my favorite competitors and contestants on the channel there. So check him out and his channel. I want to thank again everyone, and God bless to all of you. And we will run the next stream. I'll go ahead and say it right now. We'll run it in 3 weeks. It is going to be difficult to determine what day to do it. So when it gets closer to the time, 3 weeks from say today, when it gets around that time, I'll get it. I'll get ideas from you guys. You can let me know when would be the best time that third week to put out the stream. And I've got all the Bond films here. I've seen, like I said, I've seen them at least 20 times or more, so I can tell you everything there is to know about James Bond. And so we'll look forward to that in 3 weeks from now. Thanks again, everyone, and God bless to everybody that I'm friends with, all family, and all my friends. Take care, guys. Bye.